Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, ESPN 1025. The game, the final Titans minicamp practice of 2021 is over. Nothing until football starts. So training camp, we are about a month and 10 days away from training camp starting. So 5 weeks or, 5 and some change. But it is over. But today is a big day. Because yesterday, we had Ryan Tannehill talk to the media. We had Mike Vrabel talk to the media. We had Bud Dupree talk to the media. Those guys have talked to the media this offseason. Bud Dupree signed a contract, talked to the media. Ryan Tannehill had talked to the media last week or 2 weeks ago at OTAs. We ran it live, so Tannehill's talked to the media. Vrabel obviously has talked to the media, whether it's OTAs, whether it's the draft, whether it's before the draft, whether it's free agency. So those guys have all talked. Derrick Henry has not talked, and Derrick Henry will meet with the media today. Derrick Henry did not go to OTAs. I'm not sure anybody cared. This is the mandatory minicamp. Derrick Henry is there. And so for the first time this offseason, I would assume since the day after the Ravens game, and that is if Derrick met with the media after the Ravens game, this is the first time you're going to hear from Derrick Henry on the 2021 Tennessee Titans. We will have that live. We will also have Taylor Lewan today, who will meet with the media. And I'm not sure Taylor Lewan has talked much. Now, I take that back. Taylor has talked plenty to anybody who will listen. But as far as a press conference where people ask him questions, this, I believe, is the first. This may be the first for Taylor Lewan since his injury. So I'm sure he will update people on how that is going. I'm sure he will tell people that he's fine. But we will hear that coming off of the torn ACL. Then A.J. Brown will meet with the media. Now, A.J. has talked to the media. A.J. also, there was a charity event a couple of weeks ago that Tannehill and A.J. were at the day that the Titans acquired Julio Jones. So A.J. kind of got the excitement of Julio out of his system with that press conference. But we will have, again, Derrick Henry, Taylor Lewan, A.J. Brown, or at least that's who's scheduled. And then, of course, both coordinators, Todd Downing and Shane Bowen, and I'm sure we'll listen to some of that as well. Chris Sanders will join us later today. His thoughts on minicamp, his thoughts on what we've heard. So I want to start with these three guys. We have not heard anything from Derrick Henry. Taylor Lewan, Taylor is kind of picky about what he talks about, what he doesn't talk about, but I'll give him credit because he talks a lot. And then there's A.J. Brown. Derrick is the most important. He's the star of the team. And when you're the star of the team, people want to hear what you have to say. It's funny. There are some positions in life that, well, you're supposed to talk and you want to talk. And then there's other positions where the guy who's doing the job doesn't really want to talk. It's not really his thing. He kind of has to because he doesn't love it. It's like if you're a car dealer, you have to be personal. You have to, every single person that walks on that lot, how you doing today, Caroline? We got a brand new Mazda CR-V right here for you. I'm telling you, this thing is fully loaded right here. You got the bells and whistles. It does everything. It's got a 427 beat car with a great engine. I'll tell you what, this thing right here shipped in yesterday. Got it on the lot today. And I can give you a special deal because since we're friends, I give you a special deal.
That's so kind of you. Thank you.
I'm going to give you a special deal. I'm going to give you the employee discount because I believe in you so much. So if you're a car dealer, you have to do that. If you're like a nuclear physicist, you don't really want to talk to people. You kind of want to stay in there and do the nuclear physicisting, if that's a word, and it's not. But I'm just saying, that's what you want to do. And I'm looking at Derrick Henry because Vrabel doesn't want to talk, but he's got to talk. Tannehill, I don't think wants to talk, but it's kind of natural to him, so he does it. And he knows he's the quarterback, and he knows that he's the leader, and he knows he's got to talk, so he does it. Like I said, Lewan wants to talk. Of the three press conferences that are upcoming here in the next hour, Taylor Lewan's is going to probably be the most entertaining of the three. Derrick Henry doesn't want to talk, but Derrick Henry's going to talk today. So I do wonder, I was thinking this through today, kind of what are the pressing questions that each one is probably going to be asked, and what do we really care about? Again, they're going to ask Derrick Henry about what it's like to have Julio Jones on the team. And I'm sure Derrick Henry will say, oh, yeah, we're really excited to have Julio in here. He looks great. We know he's a superstar. He and I go back all the way. I first met him when I was on my official visit at Alabama in 2011, and that kind of stuff.
Right.
But in a very Derek way. So I think I spent about 20 seconds doing that. It'll probably be in about 5. The real questions I have for Derek, Joe Rexroad talked yesterday what he saw at minicamp. Derek was catching the ball out of the backfield more. That was something that he said they clearly were going out of their way to do, was to work on Derrick Henry catching the ball out of the backfield. I follow Derrick Henry on Instagram. He posted a story. You know how he loves posting stories of him working out. Now, I think if you ask Derek about his workout routine, he'll probably go on and on and on and on because he loves posting about it. But he posted a story last week on Instagram. If you're old and you don't understand that, it's not a post that stays there forever, but it's a post that people click and it's gone in 24 hours. Is that the easiest way to put it?
That's fair.
Okay. So he posted a story last week where he was at SMU's practice facility and his trainer was covering him and somebody threw him the ball. And again, he was catching the ball out of the backfield. So I saw that and I said, oh, there's Derek catching the ball out of the backfield. Good practice, Derek. Not sure that's really what they want you to do, but good job, Derek. Then I hear Joe Rexroad saying yesterday that one of his takeaways from minicamp was there was a lot of work of Derrick Henry catching the ball out of the backfield. Now, this might just be a simple minicamp thing. It may not be the end of the world. But what if the Titans are looking at their offense and they're saying, you know what, we need this out of Derrick now. We've gotten by long enough, and he's still going to run the ball, but we've gotten by long enough without Derrick Henry catching the football as a big deal. But when Derek catches it, and trust me, he's not the greatest at catching the football. We all know this. But when Derek does catch it, he had a screen pass go for a touchdown against the Cleveland Browns week 1 of 2019. He had, I believe, it was just a toss out of the backfield from Tannehill, but he had a toss out of the backfield from Tannehill against the Texans that set up the game-winning touchdown in overtime. Derrick Henry catching the football is kind of like A.J. Brown. Now, again, for A.J., it's more natural. A.J.'s better at it. But for Derrick Henry to catch the ball out of the backfield, he's pretty good. Once he gets it, he gets in space, and then it's like trying to tackle Derrick when he's running, which a lot of people seem to struggle to do. So that's kind of the thing I'm thinking about when it comes to Derrick is what has he focused on this offseason? What has the team asked of him to focus on this offseason? And I do wonder if catching the ball out of the backfield is a part of this. If it is, okay, we want to take the next step mentality. How do you do that? You get Julio Jones. And we talked about the greatest show on turf, Rams. And we talked about Peyton Manning's Colts. And do you know what those running backs could do? Catch the ball. And all of a sudden, if I'm a defense, and we've talked about this, right? Mm-hmm. We've talked about what do you do if you're a defensive coordinator and it's Julio Jones and A.J. Brown, and let's not sleep on Josh Reynolds because I think Josh Reynolds is pretty good. And now you got to worry about Derrick Henry catching the ball out of the backfield on top of Derrick Henry running the football? I don't know how you defend that. So I do wonder if that's something that Derrick has worked on, if the team has wanted Derrick to work on that for that reason. With Taylor Lewan, the pressing issue, and I don't know if he'll get asked about it, and I certainly don't think he'll talk about it. Now, he'll talk about everything else, but I think this is a prove-it year for Taylor Lewan. I think they went out of their way to not restructure his contract and to not clear up cap space using that avenue because they feel in their hearts like they want to see him give you a full season of work this year. Sure, he's a Pro Bowl left tackle. I get it. But I really think this is part of it is they want to see Taylor Lewan get out there, play a whole season, and not have a drug suspension and not have a freak injury and not have a shoulder issue and say, okay, you're reliable. We can give you $15 million next year. If not, we talk about the cap, adding Julio Jones. What's that do to next year's cap? There's $15 million right there. Now, Saffold wasn't asked about pay cuts or restructures or anything like that yesterday, so maybe Lewan won't be asked about it today. But I think that's the biggest pressing issue facing him. And then with A.J. Brown, I think A.J. has already gotten his Julio excitement. I think he got that out already. Mm-hmm. So now, A.J.'s kind of the wild card here. The one thing about A.J. is sometimes he'll let some things slip. sometimes he'll say, he came on our show after the draft. And I asked him a question. You know, always like these radio interviews, and I'm not a huge like guy that loves to like, joke around or like play like kind of games with somebody like, oh yes, oh yeah. But you do a little bit of it sometimes. But I'm also kind of weird. So when A.J. Brown got drafted by the Titans, I went to his Twitter, and he was saying, thanks Pizza Hut for all the great food for our party. And it's A.J. with a plate, and there's pizza on the plate, and there's pizza in the box. And I'm like, well, where'd that pizza come from? Because that's a whole pizza. So you didn't take any pizza out of that and put it on your plate, whatever. So I asked AJ about it, and he just goes, yeah, they donated food for my party, and I was really – look, guys, I'm going to be honest. I didn't eat any pizza. And so, a little some maybe a little some slip. So that's what we've got on tap. 615-737-1025. We'll get to Caroline, what she wants to see today. Again, big press conference. Derrick Henry, first time talking during the offseason. There's also the Madden cover. There's a lot of talk about whether or not Derrick Henry's on it. I don't think he is. I think it's going to be Brady and Mahomes, but we'll see if that comes up as well. 615-737-1025. We are live from the wholesaling studio powered by RumbleOn.com. Again, we will have those press conferences today, so we'll get those to you live and when they happen right here on Stillman & Company. It's ESPN 1025 The Game. We're streaming the Game Nashville app. Titans practice is over for the day. We are awaiting to hear from Derrick Henry for the first time in this offseason. Taylor Lewan will also talk today. A.J. Brown will talk today, and we will have all of those for you probably this hour. Chris Sanders with his reaction will join us next hour. And I said again, all the generic questions are all the same, right? Like, Derrick, what have you done this offseason working out to prepare to run for another 2,000 yards or things like that? Like,
how do you feel about adding Julio Jones to this offense?
Sure. You're going to hear that with Derrick. But again, I wonder this, and this may be an interesting question for Todd Downing. Now, Downing is a lot like Vrabel in the sense that Downing doesn't really say anything. Here's the thing about the Titans. You got Vrabel at a press conference yesterday. I heard one thing that stood out to me. One. Of 15 questions? One. And so it's almost like you're taking one of those, what are those things people used to take on the beach to find gold?
Oh, like a metal detector?
Yes. Like that, when you have a Titan press conference.
That was like a beep, 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 beep.
Oh, yes, you have to have that because you got to find what's in there, but it is always important. And, it's not like a David Boyle press conference where David just lay it out there. This is different. What are you looking forward to today? Again, Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, Taylor Lewan, we don't know in what order, but all three set to speak momentarily.
I'm really looking forward to hearing Taylor Lewan's thoughts on that offensive line. And I'm sure they have not gone into any sort of deep trench-like work, but adding Dylan Radins to that offensive line, just what he thinks as a leader, as a veteran on that offensive line, what he's kind of envisioning for this new offense, for these new additions to the offensive line. We know how A.J. Brown feels about having Julio Jones. We know exactly how he feels, but I think now that he's gotten a few reps in with him in practice, just seeing how that kind of 2 to 3 wide receiver system is working with him and having someone as his number 2 guy, and no offense to Corey Davis, but splitting the load a little bit more.
Sure.
And I think from Derrick Henry, you're going to hear a lot of the workout questions, the training questions. You're going to hear, can you repeat a 2,000-yard season? I don't really know how much else you're going to get out of Derrick Henry other than we're excited to have Julio Jones on board. We're excited for another season. We're going to bring this offense to another level. I don't really know if there's much that's going to come out of Derrick Henry that's going to move the needle for me one way or another, but I am excited to hear about how that offensive line is coming along.
You brought up an interesting point on the Radins front. And that was yesterday, Roger Saffold was asked about Radins.
Mm-hmm.
I believe, and I haven't been out on the practice field, and, for all the people that I've talked to, there are certain things you cannot report that is going on there. This is one of the things that's key because you can get a player to slip up. Like, you can't report Johnny Joe starting at right tackle. But if Taylor Lewan says, we're excited to see Johnny Joe start at right tackle, that's a slip-up. And that's where I think a Radins thing is worth discussing because I think there's a chance they're hoping that Radins starts right away.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that when you take a guy, I believe Michael Roos was that way when the Titans drafted him in 2005, and they had Brad Hopkins at left tackle, and I think they started Roos. And then the next year, Brad Hopkins retired, and they moved Roos over to the left side, and he played for the next decade as your left tackle. I think there's something to that, and I think the Titans may want him to come in right away and play right tackle. I don't know. He played one football game last year for North Dakota State, just like Trey Lance did. He was a left tackle in college. He played at the FCS level. He's got Chandler Jones or J.J. Watt week 1 if he is starting at right tackle for the Titans, unless Chandler Jones gets traded. He's got those guys. I mean, so that is at least worth watching if Lewan brings that up. I'm with you. The A.J. Brown thing, again, is I don't think there's really anything to ask A.J. Like, he wanted
nothing more
Julio.
that we don't know.
Right. He wanted Julio. He's discussed Julio. Like, he loves Julio. He wants Julio on the team. I mean, like, think about all the kind of questions. If you had A.J. Brown and A.J. Brown just said nothing, right? Mm-hmm. Say A.J. didn't say a word about Julio. So the exact opposite of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine how he would feel? Like, all the questions would be about how do you feel about bringing in a guy that might be the number one when you're the number one and they bring in a guy who might be the number one? How do you feel about that? Kind of the way to ask without just asking, would you be upset if you're not the number one guy?
Right.
We know the answer because AJ told us about 15 times unsolicited
And he
So we
was
don't worry about
willing
that.
to give up his number for Julio. So
Now, I don't totally believe that.
you don't?
No.
He tweeted it.
But he said it after the fact. You know, like, again, he said it.
He said it before Julio got traded. I'm willing to give you my number.
No, I think he said he was thinking about it because he wanted to wear number 1. And then he found out that Warren Moon wore number 1.
That's right. And
It's
he
a
said,
really weird
I
disconnect.
wouldn't do it.
Right. There's like a really
Either
weird,
way.
There's a really weird disconnect with the franchise and Warren Moon. Not in a bad way. Just the fact that Warren Moon didn't play for the Titans.
Right.
So it's kind of like he's not, the people in Nashville. If it was like, hey, I'd like to wear number 9, everybody in Nashville would be like, hell no, you're not wearing
Right.
number 9.
Right.
That is Steve McNair's number. But because, nobody here, we all know Warren Moon, we respect Warren Moon, but, he's not our guy. So nobody gets too worked up about it. I think he said something like, I was going to try to switch, but they wouldn't let me switch. So, I'm going to keep number 11, but you be the number 1 guy kind of thing.
Right.
And then after it was announced Julio was going to wear number 2, he said, I tried, and he wouldn't take it. So I don't know about that. I don't know completely. In fact, that may be a good question. What is the chronological order of how you went about willing to give up number 11? Because there is one thing about the NFL. If you change number, you got to buy back all the retail jerseys, which I think, by the way, is ridiculous. I don't think the player should buy back the retail jersey. I think the player or whoever switches the number, whoever you want to foot the bill with, I think that a fan should be allowed to go to the pro shop, the team pro shop, and exchange that jersey for the updated player number. And whatever that costs the team should be what the player has to pay. So that the fan can get the number back, the fan can get the updated jersey, and the player can change his number. And again, I don't know how much how much it costs to make a jersey for Nike, but I do know how much money they charge for a jersey to make with Nike.
And it is way more than what it costs to make.
I am not crying for Nike on this one. So, again, press conference is upcoming, 615-737-1025. We probably will need to clear out the text line just because, well, we're playing the waiting game on when these guys will be out there answering the questions. We do not want to miss Derrick Henry. We don't want to miss A.J. Brown. We don't want to miss Taylor Lewan live in that regard. So let's go to your text, 615-737-1025. Text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, as is the phone line. Caroline Fenton's on that. What do we have?
One texter texted in and said, I can't believe I agree with you, Jared. I'm glad they didn't restructure Taylor. He is too expensive to be injured every Sunday.
This is the thing with Lewan, man. It's weird because the fans love him.
Mm-hmm.
And
the fans love him because he's good at football, and also he's such a personable guy. The fans, I feel like they know him on a deeper level.
And it's funny.
He's like a bro.
And it's funny you say that because they hate the second thing if the first thing's not true. So when Lewan, when the team stunk and Lewan was doing all this, and Derek Mason on this station just called him out, he even called in, Lewan did, down the road and told Derek, it hurt me when I heard what you said, but then I listened to it a bunch because it kind of grounded me. Mm-hmm. So the fans were totally on D. Mace's side when that happened. Now Taylor's a good football player, so now everybody's like, yeah, busting with the boys. Look, man, this is business. It's $15 million against the cap next year, 14.9 or whatever it is. Very little dead money this year. I think almost no dead money next year. This is business. And if Taylor Lewan can't stay healthy, then he's going to have to either take a pay cut or he's going to have to go somewhere else. And I go back to, I saw Jamison Crowder took a pay cut with the Jets. Basically, he was scheduled to make $10 million. They drafted Elijah Moore. They signed Corey Davis. They had somebody else. Denzel Mims, I think, was on their roster. And they were like, okay, you're going to have to take a pay cut. So Crowder takes a pay cut. And I saw that, and I'm like, where's Ben Jones's pay cut? Where's Roger Saffold's pay cut? Where's the guys on the Titans that need to take pay cuts? Why aren't they taking pay cuts? Jamison Crowder can take a pay cut. Why can't they? But that's, again, neither here nor there as far as all that is. But I do, again, back to the Lewan point, I think at some point you have to stay healthy in order to get – this is business. If he was making $4 million next year and he got hurt this year and he plays 12 games and he misses some games here or there, that's $4 million. Okay, fine. It's 15. And it's 15. You were hurt last year. You were suspended the year before that. I mean, I got to count on you if I'm going to pay you. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll get back to your text on this as we await, again, Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, Taylor Lewan. We don't know the order, but we will have all three for you today. It is the last time you will hear them talk this offseason. Well, maybe you'll hear Lewan talk a little bit more just because that's what he does. But it is the first time and the last time you will hear Derrick Henry talk, so we will have that for you. FanDuel Sportsbook, it's my official sportsbook app. It's always exciting when a player scores a goal in the Euros, but this year it's twice as exciting because FanDuel is paying out double the winnings when you bet on a player to score during a Euro 2020 game. Just sign up for the FanDuel Sportsbook app, enter promo code JGM, and pick your goal scorer for a shot at 2 times the payout. Ronaldo, did you see what he did yesterday? No matter who you pick, FanDuel will double your payout up to $250, and you'll have your bonus in less than 72 hours. There's no better place to bet the Euro 2020 than the FanDuel Sportsbook app. By the way, who told you Fernando Tatis Jr. on Dinger Tuesday yesterday?
Dinger Tuesday.
Thank you. Sign up for the FanDuel Sportsbook app using the promo code JGM and choose any player in the anytime goal scorer market for a chance to double your winnings. Again, love it. My official sportsbook app, the FanDuel Sportsbook app. 21 and older and present Tennessee. New users only must wager in a designated offer market. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 7 days. Max bonus $250. Restrictions apply. See full terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call Tennessee Redline 1-800-889-9789. Stillman and Company Titans minicamp practice is over. We are awaiting the press conferences any moment now. Derrick Henry, Taylor Lewan, A.J. Brown. Let me tell you all, this Friday, it's your chance to participate in the Nashville SC Pick to Click, brought to you by Camarena Tequila. If you guess correctly which player scores a goal in the game this Friday night, you will win a prize pack and a 4-pack of tickets to an upcoming Nashville SC home game. Your next chance to participate is this Friday morning at 9:45 a.m. One thing I was thinking about, Caroline, is, again, we await for these guys, is what do you think the level of optimism, not that I think they'll be asked. I don't know what they'll be asked. You know you would never get an answer from Vrabel on this. You know you would never get an answer from Tannehill on this. Do you think they think that this offense can be Super Bowl level good with Julio Jones? I would love to see somebody ask. This is a perfect question for A.J. Brown. I'm not sure that Derrick Henry would take the bait. Lawan, I'm a little iffy on whether or not he would take the bait. I think A.J. might take the bait. I think he may, again, the question being, and I'm not one that's like into like baiting players into saying things that they'll regret. I'm not into the gotcha question. Mm-hmm. I'm into the, okay, what's an interesting like question that the guy might answer, and if he doesn't answer, then you have his answer of he's not going to talk about it. That's how I approach it. And whether or not this offense is a Super Bowl caliber offense, I think is a very fair question to say, hey, when you look at the talent that you have in this group, do you think this is a Super Bowl offense? And I think AJ may answer that honestly. Lawan, I don't know how he'd answer it. The Lawan question, the Lawan press conference is the biggest question mark to me. You know he's going to talk a lot, but what's he going to say? Henry, he's going to be like, yeah, I've been working out pretty hard, just excited for the season, just training every day to get better so that we can get better and we can go out there and we can make some plays. The end.
Well, that is what he does.
That is
he
true.
does work hard to go out there and go make plays.
But then he goes on the Bussin' with the Boys podcast and he's talking about how miserable he is and having nightmares because he had 60 yards against the Ravens. So, my point being that there is more there. He just doesn't like talking.
Yes. And I think there's a level of comfort there. And I think that from Lawan, you might get an answer. And I have yet to be in on a Lawan press conference. This is just my outsider opinion.
I mean, it's not special. It's not a John Tortorella.
This is me listening to Bussin' with the Boys and learning his personality since I've been in Nashville and since I've been in this job. But I feel like it may be we're going to do everything we can to win a Super Bowl, and we believe in this team.
Taylor Lawan at the podium.
Teresa Walker, you want to get us started?
Taylor, good afternoon. How are you doing? How's the ACL recovery coming? And I'll stop there. I have more questions, but I'll stop with that one.
Okay. Well, thank you for asking that question. I figured that would come up. My ACL is doing great. Obviously, it was tough being out during the season, especially missing that much time this season. It's been a lot of time for reflecting and growing. So knee's doing really well. I'm doing change of direction now. I'm doing some running. So I'm really excited for the season. I've never missed practice in my life. Like missed it, like personally. I miss going to practice. I've missed a practice. But I tell you what, watching the boys out there running around and playing ball, it definitely makes you miss it a whole bunch. So I can't wait for the season.
Kayla? Oh, here we are. Okay. You got me?
Yeah.
Okay. We've asked everyone and their mom this, but I mean, what is it like you said, watching the boys out there and seeing number 2, the newest addition for you guys? I mean, impressive just to see him in person, Taylor?
Yeah, the guy's a future Hall of Famer, man. The amount of work, the talent he has and the amount of work that he's put in and the short conversations that I've had with him, I think any team he would have gone to, he would have made them a lot better. I'm really excited as part of the Tennessee Titans. But, that at the end of the day, we have to make this thing work. Guys got to protect. Ryan's got to throw it. We have 11 guys on the field at one time. So I'm really excited to see the chemistry grow and seeing what this team can do in the season.
Harry?
Taylor, how much did the injury kind of maybe change your thinking, change your approach in terms of your career and playing football? Did it make you a little more grateful for the opportunity to be an NFL player playing at a high level?
Well, Terry, are you in the car? Sounds like you're in the car right now. Yeah, honestly, throughout my career, college, high school, NFL, not in that order, it's been I've always appreciated football. It's been an outlet for me in so many different ways, and I've always enjoyed playing football as hard as I possibly can. Effort and finishing is things that I pride myself on. So I've never taken football for granted. But when you've had a certain amount of success in the NFL and it gets taken away from you abruptly, it definitely has changed the way I've thought about it a little bit. I want to play this game as long as I can. There's was never a thought in my head like, well, how long should I do this? Like in my mind, my knee, when it's healed, and we're back to normal. So I just can't wait to be back out there. It's like I said, I missed practice, and that's a wild thing. So I just can't wait to be back out there with the boys.
Jim Wyatt.
And Taylor, a lot of us just got off the practice field, so I missed the first part. But are you encouraged with where you are right now, and how much are you chomping at the bit to be out there with your teammates?
Yeah, I wish I could be out there right now. Honestly, it's not the smartest thing for me. The Titans, we have our training staff is in the NFL for a reason, and this offseason being where I was with the people that I hired to help me, they put me in an amazing position to be successful. I was able to, the good thing about being injured is you have so much time from end of October all the way till now, not only to work on my knee, but other deficiencies I've had in my body, whether it's oblique strength or flexibility in certain areas. So it hasn't been just a focus on just my knee. It's been my entire body, whether it's rearranging some nutritional stuff or just like getting flexibility, learning new things, learning how to control my body better. It's definitely, it makes me very excited because I know my capabilities when this knee is healed. I think I'll be much more improved overall as a player.
And did you say you've been doing some running and changing directions, and what else maybe is part of your rehab to get stronger?
Well, there's the basic rehab stuff you do all the time. I've done a lot of BFR, but I think the stage in which I'm in right now isn't so much rehab, it's training now. And it's getting ready to get back on the field and go and play and be dominant at the position that I play in, that's left tackle. So I think most of it's been, linear speed, change of direction, football movements really. And now it's about time to get that conditioning going and get ready for camp and this upcoming season.
David.
They admire your game. They want to be a tackle like you. How much of that have you seen, and what does that mean to you that a number of guys think that way?
Yeah, man, it's I don't want to put it lightly because I don't want to brush it off. It is very cool to have guys come in the NFL and to be a fan of me. Going into my 8th year, that seems like a long time, but for me, I remember 2014 coming in to a room with year 10 guys like Chris Spencer and Michael Ruse and having the guys that I admired and still admire to this day. And it's cool that I have a teammate that watched my game in college and appreciated the way I play. And my thought is, hopefully I can live up to those expectations. So, but Dylan, he's been great, man. I try to talk to him a little bit. I feel like he's a little shy around me. I feel like when I get up to him, hang out with him, I talk to him a little bit, but then he's like kind of quiet. And I'm like, well, I'm in the market for a friendship if you want to do it, Dilly. It's between you and me. We can make it work if you want it to.
Glennon.
Yes, Taylor, continuing on that theme, when we asked Roger yesterday, he talked about Dylan being like a very much a yes sir, no sir, keep his head down kind of guy. Is that in some ways, is that a nice thing to see, a guy come in, despite being a high draft pick and act like maybe a rookie should, if that makes sense?
I think it's important for everyone to act. I think the worst thing you can do in this league is to try to be someone you're not. I've fallen into that trap before, whether it was in college or the beginning part of my career. And I think that if that's what Dylan's personality is, he needs to be exactly that. And I think it'll fit him perfectly with guys like Vrabel and Keith. Those guys they're demanding, they have high expectations, and I think it's going to be really good. I think I talked to Keith on the phone before I came in to mandatory minicamp. He told me, listen, these guys are the best rookies I think you'll ever have. These guys come in, like you said, yes sir, no sir, talk about snacks and the things you want. They just bring it in. I told him I wanted some gluten-free beef jerky. And guess what? Next day, sitting on my desk was gluten-free beef jerky. So not just Dylan, but all the rookies now have done a great job. And it's nice to be around. There is a bit of a pecking order. What's up? What's up, King? there is a bit of a pecking order in the NFL, and those guys seem to fit in, and it's kind of they're working to earn respect, and they have mine. So I'm very very excited to have them on this team.
Couple more, and then we have Derek next. Ben Arthur.
Hey, Taylor, you mentioned how you're kind of now in like sort of training mode, doing football movements, change of direction. I mean, obviously, your body better than anyone. Do you feel like you could be ready to go full go by training camp, after this kind of long break that you guys have?
I think it doesn't matter what my opinion is on that. I think Vrabel and Todd are going to get a game plan with me, and we're going to do the best thing it is for my body so that when week one comes, I can have the best success I can to help this team win. I could sit here and, predict a bunch of things, but you never know what's going to happen in these next 6-7 weeks. I expect it to go swimmingly, smooth, but you never know what's going to happen. So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, yeah, day one at training camp will be ready to go and we'll be, hell's bells from then on. But I think what's important is that I take every day one day at a time. I have to train today at 5 o'clock with Luke Richardson, the best strength coach of all time. I'm going to sit there with him. We're going to work through the stuff we've been working through, keep progressing. And my goal is to be as dominant as I possibly can this upcoming season. However that looks, I know Vrabel put me in the right position. He has done an amazing job with guys whenever they're injured of letting us figure it out and be comfortable and ready to play. And it showed when guys come back from injury.
Thanks.
Last question, Paul.
Hey, Taylor, sorry if I'm redundant. Has there been a second surgery at all?
No, Paul. Hey, Kim, let's do one more because that was trash.
And then get your follow in.
Yeah, so this will be a lively one. Taylor, if I recall correctly, I think you were one of the guys who kind of jumped on social media in terms of, hoping to get Julio Jones here. Am I accurate in recalling that? And, what kind of prompted you to do that? And did you ever hear any feedback from, whether it was Julio or whether it was from, John Robinson or coaches or anyone like that?
I think it's funny. A lot of guys, Derek, AJ, me, when we get on social media and we start spouting off about this guy or that guy, I believe JJ Watt was a guy that I tweeted at. It didn't work out, but we have no idea what's going to happen upstairs. John has done an amazing job of putting personnel, putting talent in this room, and it's our job as players to go out and play. But we do have fun in the social media. It's the world we live in now. So yes, I was a person that was all on the Julio hype train, and I'm happy he's on our team. But I listen, Derrick Henry and AJ are literally screaming outside this door. So I believe this is it for me.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Taylor.
guys.
Thanks,
Hey, Paul,
Taylor.
let's be better next time. Okay. That was just tough
All
to
right,
hear.
you can bring me up, Ian. All right, that was Taylor Lewan in his post practice. We've got Derrick Henry coming up next. So once Ian lets me know that Derrick Henry is up, we will have Derrick Henry live again. First time that he's spoken with the media this entire offseason, and I'm going out on the limb and saying the only time, considering the mandatory minicamp is pretty much over, the only time he's going to speak with the media is today. What's the over-under on how long? Here's Derrick Henry.
Let's get started with Teron.
Yeah, what's up, Derek? Your relationship with your new OC, Todd Downing, how is that developing, and what are some of the things you like about what he brings to the table as far as maybe continuity or anything like that?
I mean, well, I've been with Todd first year was 2019, and kind of the same thing. He just took over, just like Art did. He's been the offensive coordinator before, so we ready to see what we can all do together, and just trying to put it all together. We got the week. I haven't been here the whole time, and you guys been working hard and building the chemistry, and pushing each other, and just competing and getting better on both sides of the ball. And that's all we want us to do. Just compete every day. Come in and pay attention to the little things, the details, fundamentals. Give all your effort and finish. You're in practice, so that's all we've been focusing on. Trying to do the best that we can.
Kayla.
Hey, Derek. Obviously, we see all of your off-season workout videos. Enjoy those. What is kind of the goal for you in the off-season when you're doing these individual workouts? Do you take any time off?
Basically just doing same thing I've been doing each and every off season. Working out, staying in shape, getting ready for the season, ready for the training camp. So my body feels good. We come back and get to work. Been doing tour days and all those different type of things, and working out with Melvin. He can get me right. Just different ideas, all the workouts he comes up with. Just making sure my body's in shape and running hills and doing stuff on the field and just working on everything possible that I can get better at, so I'm ready when I come back.
Do you? Sorry, do you add anything? Year to year, new things to incorporate in your workouts, or you just kind of keep the same routine year to year?
It's really on Melvin. What he sees throughout the season, what he thinks I need to work on, or get better at as far as my body and things that he feel like he helped me with. And I listen to him and then try to work on those things and incorporate it to football, on the field, and all those type of things, just so I can get better and be better whenever I come back.
Teresa.
And Derek, just to follow up on that, when you're working, is it do you work on conditioning? Is it a specific body part? Is it what is it that you've been in the league for a while now? What is it that you're trying to maintain at this point?
I just work on everything. I try to work on everything each and every year. I feel like I can always get better at everything. That's what I try to work on each and every day when I'm away during the off season. That's all I try to focus on, trying to get better at everything.
Buck.
Yeah, Derek, I know Julio made it down to Dallas for one of those training sessions. How hard was the recruiting pitch to him then?
Not really recruiting, just trying to get some work in. He was in town and he wanted to get some work in, and he put up on us, and we ran and did a workout, and just talk, catching up and just talking about what was going on, and now he's here. So glad to have him as a teammate, and I'm excited to get to work with him.
Glennon.
Hey, Derek. Speaking of Julio, it certainly was no secret on social media that you were a big fan of him eventually getting here. What made you sort of take to the social media to kind of campaign for the trade that brought him here? And did you ever hear any feedback about that from Julio or from the John Robinson or the coaches, anything like that?
No, I just saying tighten up, and that would be cool if we were to get him here and be able to play with him. Everybody knows the type of player he is, what he brings to the table. So I just trying to do my best to pitch him to get here, and obviously it kind of worked.
That's what I was going to ask. Do you feel like I know it was a trade that brought him here, but do you feel like you did play a small part maybe in helping it happen?
I feel like AJ did had a bigger role, but I pitched in a little bit. I tried to, at least.
Couple more for Derek. Terry.
Terry,
why don't you type your question?
One thing you said.
Terry, why don't you type your question and we can ask it for you? And Teron, if you want to ask in the meantime.
Terry coming in from Mars. My question,
Always.
My question is just in regards to what Julio brings to the table and just how it opens things up for you as a back. Can you just kind of get into what that does, adding him to the picture?
Well, he's a dynamic player. One of not the best receiver in this league. So he's definitely respected by defenses. And I don't want to get into all the boxes and there's different type of scenarios. I think we just try to pull it all together while we're here and just try to work and try to make each other better. And each and every day, he likes to work hard. I like to work hard, and that's all we're trying to bring to the table. As far as being teammates and the whole team is making each other better. I really get into, what this would be like and that would be like. Just trying to put it all together, come here, work every day, get better, be a great teammate, and see what we can do.
Gentry.
Yeah, Derek, I know yours and Julio's paths at Alabama didn't cross quite at the same time, but did you get to know him much at all through that? And because of kind of a shared background, do you have a little bit better idea what to expect, what you guys are getting out of Julio, given the fact you guys both played at the same place?
Yeah, when I was at Bellevue, he used to come back all the time, and got to know him through that time, and actually when I was coming out for the draft, and I got to train with him when he came back to Bama as well, and then just seeing him and hanging out with him my time throughout the league, and his body of work and how he plays and what type of player he is, and we both coming from Bama, we both know each other's mindset and what we want to do, and just a great guy to have around. He was a humble guy, loves to work hard, is a great teammate, and be a great asset, for this team, and for everybody to learn from one of the greats that played this game.
All right, I got Terry's here. What are the new challenges for you in the offense after such an outstanding year last year?
Say it again.
What's the challenges for you and the offense after such an outstanding year last year?
I don't think we looking at what's the new challenge. I think it's just us, just trying to be better at everything that we do, as far as on offense, individually, collectively, and just growing, and helping each other grow, and just competing, hold each other accountable, and just doing the things we need to do as a team while we're away, and then we get back here to just try to put it all together. That's just working hard. Hard work. It's always hard work. It's a grind, and I think we all know that. And I think it takes time, and just try to push each other day by day to be the best we can be when the season comes.
Last two questions, Jim Wyatt.
I guess, Derek, I got two quick ones. One, did you let Julio know that you wore number 2, I guess, during your rookie year at the start?
No, I didn't. I didn't know what number he was going to choose. I didn't know what was happening with that. But it fits him, and I'm glad he found his number.
And as far as Kari, how has your relationship with him kind of on and off the field evolved, and how much credit do you give him for some of the success you have?
We talk from time to time during the off season. Just check in on one another, see how each other's doing. Kari does all the dirty work, and he's a big part of my success. Definitely appreciate him throughout the years with the success I had, and I'm glad we still have him, and have another season with him, and he's doing a great job for us.
There you go. That was Derrick Henry's press conference. I mean, Terry McCormick never, ever gets it right with his phone. Never. I've never seen anybody. It's the same guy every time. And I'll be darned if he didn't ask the single best question of the press conference.
But also, it is 2021. Can we not get some cell service up in here? Like, this is no more
It ain't cell
Verizon.
service.
Can you hear me now?
No. It ain't cell service. It ain't cell service on Terry McCormick. And I know this because this happens literally every press conference with Terry McCormick. But then he turned around and he asked the best question.
It was a great question.
So we'll have our thoughts on Derek plus AJ Brown is next. 615-737-1025 Stillman and Company. It's ESPN 1025 The Game. Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, ESPN 1025 The Game. We will have A.J. Brown's press conference momentarily. Taylor Lewan, Derrick Henry. Their mini camp availabilities are out of the way. We will have Todd Downing, offensive coordinator, later this hour. Perhaps we'll have Shane Bowen, defensive coordinator, later this hour. We'll have Chris Sanders later this hour. What were our takeaways, Caroline Fenton, when it comes to the Taylor Lewan and Derrick Henry's press conference? For me, my biggest takeaway from the Derrick Henry press conference was basically that he likes Julio Jones. That's what I got from it. I thought Terry McCormick asked via the chat the best question, and that probably needs to be how Terry McCormick asks questions here in the near future. No disrespect to Terry. And, I like Terry fine. No disrespect to Terry. Even though he did call me a wise guy reporter one time, like in a not a sub tweet, but it was in an article.
Wise guy.
Well, it was when I asked Ken Wisenhunt about giving up the play calling, and Terry was sitting behind me, and I was like, so here's what happened. So this is a story where this is when people liked me because they thought, because when the team stinks and you're the one guy who stands up to it, it's like, Jared, I agree with you. You're the one who's right.
Yeah.
So when you're saying, like, I don't know if I like if Vrabel does this, everyone's like, because Vrabel's won a lot of football games, it's like, Jared, he's the coach. He knows. You don't know.
Which just goes to prove that if you win, you can kind of do anything.
Look at Belichick.
Yeah.
So, anywho,
Saban.
I had this, and I was like kind of, still like young, but I was the kind of young where it was like, I think I was 25, and it was the kind of young where I was like out to prove people.
Mm-hmm.
Not the, I'm young, I need to take it easy, I need to learn a little bit. Like, it was the young of like, hey, I am Johnny Badass here, and I am going to tell it like it is, I am going to be the guy.
Why does that surprise me? 0%.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
So, Wisenhunt was a disaster as an offensive coach. And honestly, I think he lives in Nashville now. I hope he's listening. He was a disaster of an offensive coach. And, I'm a fan. So I'm a fan, and I'm on the air, and I'm covering the team, and I try to be as objective as possible, just keep it real.
Mm-hmm.
But, I can't watch this. So I'm like, time to give it the play calling. So it's funny. I asked Floyd. I don't think I've ever told this on air because I don't think Floyd, wants his business out. So I asked Floyd. I said, hey, this team is 28th in points. They were 29th last year. Do you think I can ask Wisenhunt if it's time for him to give up the play calling? Floyd said it's a totally legit question. So that was all I needed to hear. And this was before we were on the air together. We worked a little bit together, but we weren't together. And so I asked the question at the press conference. Wisenhunt goes, I don't know. I have to think about whatever. Gets a question from John Glennon about a Harry Douglas injury. Comes right back to me and goes, what do you think? And I was like, what do you mean, what do I think? And he's like, about what you asked me. And I was like, the play calling? And I was like, yeah, give it up. I was like, I think it's time for a change. And Terry McCormick was sitting behind me. He shushed me, like, shh. And I remember, turning around being like,
this is not a movie theater.
So then I read the Terry McCormick article, the write-up on it, and it was like some wise guy reporter asked this question to Kent Wisenhunt. And, the thing blew up. It was front page of the Tennessean. It was everybody talking about it. It's funny because Floyd actually brought this up to me. I didn't hear this, but after I'd asked that question, there were follow-ups about the play calling, and that kind of became the big story. And and so Paul Kaharski, I guess, asked one of the follow-ups. And Floyd told me, he goes, can you believe what Kaharski did? I said, what are you talking about? He goes, I listened to Kaharski, or he wrote something or read something, and he was talking about, I asked the hard questions or whatever, when it was me who asked Wisenhunt that question. But so this is a long story to tell you that Terry McCormick, I like. But, with the phone or whatever it is, the tablet, the computer, it's every press conference.
It sounded like
Robinson,
it was in a fish tank, and he was yelling into it.
It's not only that, it's every time. It's like Terry McCormick. When I hear them say Terry McCormick on a press conference, I'm like, oh, no, here we go. And,
buckle up.
And, the one where he was in the car and Lewan was, you in the car this time, Terry? That's the best it's been ever. Robinson makes fun of it. Vrabel makes fun of it. Derrick Henry's making fun of it. It's, oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Boy, people are going to get mad at me now. Anywho, A.J. Brown at the podium today with the media.
AJ, tough being patient now that Julio's here, and you're busy recovering, obviously. And how much are you looking forward to that time when you both get on the field and can start working together?
I'm definitely not getting impatient, but excited to get back on the field and get back out there with my teammates. Um, just to be out there again. You know what I'm saying? So I've been rehabbing. I've just been taking it slow, and I'll be back out there soon.
Buck.
What's up, AJ? A lot of new faces in the wide receiver room this year. What kind of stands out about? Obviously, Julio is Julio Jones, but what kind of stands out about Josh Reynolds and Des Fitzpatrick? I know you've only seen probably a little bit of them at this point.
I like how Josh Reynolds carries himself. I don't see firsthand what they're doing on the field because I'm not out there. I haven't really just worked with them. But I like how they carry themselves. Well, both of them off the field, in the locker room, in the meeting room. They're learning. They're trying to get adjusted to everything, and they're just being a pro. So, which is good. But I can't really speak on the first part because I'm really not out there with them. Like I see a little film here and there, but that's all I see.
Well, if I can get a quick follow, then Tannehill, when you're working with him, when the transition was made from Marcus to Ryan, what kind of stands out about him as somebody who's trying to acclimate himself to new receivers, and how did that process look for you from your perspective?
For him, it's gonna come down to making plays. You build that trust making plays against defenders each and every day, building that trust. And when he's in trouble, and it starts off just him just giving you a chance, giving you an opportunity. You make the play for him, and he'll come back to you. So him building that relationship, you can run a million routes all day long, and until he trusts you, and he can throw you the ball in the situation, then he'll keep coming back to you. That's how I feel like he built the trust. That's how he built the trust with me. So,
thanks,
Jim Wyatt.
And AJ, what's your focus been this offseason? I know you hadn't been out there like you'd like, but does that mean you've watched more film? Have you done some other things to kind of make up for being out there? And how's that going?
Yeah, it's been a real slow grind for me. Been doing a lot of lifting weights, cardio, film, just watching, just trying to learn as much as possible. Not kill time, but make the most of it. To be honest, so. I've been studying, watching old games, trying to just find new ways just to put it in my game, just visualizing it. So.
Teron.
Hey, what's up, man? Coach Downing, he had mentioned some of the things he wants to do with you as far as expand your route tree, get you, familiar with recognizing coverages, et cetera. Is that something that you embrace, and how did that come about? Like, is that something that you went to him to do, or did he come to you? How did that evolve?
He came to me. He came to me this offseason when he got the job, and he was just kind of gave me a little heads up about it, And as far as we went along, we got a little into depth about it. Of course, I'm gonna embrace any new opportunity. They're kind of asking to put a little more on me this year, which is fine. They can't put more on me than I can put on myself. That I put on myself already. So, it's all good, So, I'll be ready.
John Glennon.
Hey AJ, I was going to ask you about your campaign of sorts to help bring Julio here. What kind of prompted you to start that? Knowing that he was not a free agent even, and how much did you talk with Julio during that, and you end up feeling like maybe you made any kind
of yeah, it was going in and out, but I think I can I think I could use my contact tools, but yes, I was talking to him during the process. Was on the phone talking or whatever. And to be honest, it came about me just being bored, just having so much time on my hand. I was working out as much as I can, but just me being bored, me being at home bored by myself. So and just just wanted to do something by time. That's how it went about. So.
Yeah, and again, I know he was not a free agent, but do you did you ever hear any feedback, I guess, from the Titans coaches or GM, and do you feel like you maybe helped make a difference at all in bringing him here?
I don't know. For me, like, it was all fun and games. I mean, if it helped, it helped. But I think I put it in the air for them to show that like, I'm not afraid of competition or anyone, or bringing in another superstar like that. So, if it helped, it helped. But for me, it was just all fun and games. So.
So a couple more for AJ, and then we have Coach Downing, Kayla.
Hey AJ, following up with some Julio stuff here. How much has your relationship grown with him just for the short time that you've been here, and how fun do you think it's going to be with two kind of dominant, personalities and dominant guys out on the field, to just build that kind of together too?
It's gonna be real fun. We talk about it all the time. We talk about it all the time. Who are they gonna try to take away? But like I said, we got to put the work in. We got to go to work, and like, I'm excited to get back out there and get back on the field and do my diligence.
Paul.
AJ, how do you think coverage changes now, given that you've got an all-time great on the other side?
I think it starts. I think it starts in the backfield. The guy we got in the backfield demands all the attention first. But I think you just got to play us honest. You got to play everybody honest. Not just me and Julio. You got Ferkster, Josh Reynolds, all the other guys too. So, a lot of names that'll kind of sneak up on you. So, we'll see how whatever coach they throw out there, we'll be ready.
Last question, quick. David Beauclair.
AJ, speaking of social media, do you remember recording the post-surgery video, and when you watched it with a clear head later, did you think it was funny, embarrassing? What was your reaction?
I definitely thought it was embarrassing because I'm not that player, and I don't want attention. I'm not in it for the accolades. Like, for me, I just want to be the best. So a lot of guys will give me a hard time about it. So they know that's not me, but they were just making fun of me. But it was embarrassing, so.
There you go. That's A.J. Brown. And a couple of things A.J. Brown said that stood out I want to get to next. Our takeaways from the press conference, 615-737-1025, your takeaways. We'll get to those coming up next. We're live from the wholesaling studio, powered by RumbleOn.com. We'll see if Todd Downing or Shane Bowen says anything interesting. I don't think we probably need to run that live, but we'll see. 615-737-1025, Stillman and Company, right here on ESPN 1025 The Game. Let me tell everybody out there that this Father's Day, ESPN 1025 The Game is saluting frontline fathers. Submit written descriptions of the fathers who are serving on the front lines, including military, hospital workers, firefighters, or police. This week, we will air all of those submissions via call-ins, text messages, our website, and social media. Visit The Game Nashville now for more information. Stillman and Company, it's ESPN 1025 The Game. Stillman and Company, delivered by TriStar Moving. I said Stillman and Company, right? I think I said that.
All right.
Stillman and Company,
Would hope
delivered
so.
by TriStar Moving. All right, our takeaways. Lawan, Henry, A.J. Brown. I'm going to go first.
By all means.
My takeaway first is this. Number one, Taylor Lewan's going to be healthy for the start of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Now, once you tear your ACL, it's a one or the other. You are either susceptible to tearing it again, or it's like Ryan Tannehill. Knock on wood. Did you hear that?
All the wood is being knocked on.
You're Ryan Tannehill. You have your torn ACL. You have the surgery. You come back. You don't get hurt after that. And as of right now, Tannehill didn't get hurt in 2018 with the ACL, didn't get hurt in 2019 with the ACL, didn't get hurt in 2020. Now, he tried. Remember that little finger roll he had in the Bills and he landed awkwardly? I mean, he tried, but he didn't. So, Lawan's going to be the left tackle. That's not really a surprise, but I will say this. I am uneasy with Bud Dupree's current situation coming back, knowing how much they've invested in Dupree, knowing how much they need Dupree on the field week one. And they need Dupree to be 100% week one, and just how unlikely that is. Lawan tore his ACL, I think, a month after Dupree tore his. So that's probably a big difference as far as being on the field and ready to go week one. But Lawan, when asked about the rehab, said it's not really about rehabbing anymore. It's about strength training at this point, which I think is a good step in the right direction. That's the number one takeaway. That's probably the most important thing. The second thing I took away is A.J. Brown admitted what we all probably thought, which is the Titans are talking about, all right, if you take away Derrick Henry and you take away Julio, who are you going to take? I mean, you can't take them all away. And the reason I bring that up is because that is, if there was any concern, and I don't have a big concern, but if there was any concern about there being maybe a selfish aspect to all of this, I think it's gone. You know, any possibility that somebody could come in after a game and say, hey, I only got targeted 3 times. What are we doing? If everybody is sitting there saying, hey, if they're going to take you away and they're going to take me away, then that means that you've got a shot to get it. Then all of a sudden when Derrick Henry gets the ball 13 times in a game, but A.J. Brown has 11 catches for 176 yards and 2 touchdowns, everybody will sit there and say, hey, they sold out. They went 9 in the box. A.J. took it the distance. They couldn't stop A.J. today. And I think that's a good sign. I think the second takeaway, or third takeaway, but the second takeaway from A.J. Brown was they really do. Like when we talk about the Titans offense, we talk about Henry and Brown and Jones and let it rip. And when they talk on TV about the Titans offense, that's all they'll ever talk about.
They're not going to talk about Josh Reynolds on ESPN.
But we went back and we looked at it. You know, the greatest show on turf, Rams, it wasn't just Marshall Faulk, Isaac Bruce, and Torrey Holt. Robert Holcomb was a big part of that. It wasn't just in Indianapolis, Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne. Dominic Rhodes and Joseph Adai and Dallas Clark and Ben Utek, they were a big part of that. And the way they look at it, the way A.J. Brown talked about it, and the way Derrick Henry talked about it when he was asked about adding Julio to the mix, and he said, hey, look, it's all about just putting it together. I think that they inside that room look at Ferkser and Reynolds, and they think, okay, these are the guys. You know, you have 5 guys that are eligible receivers on any play. Now, yesterday, Vrabel talked about using multiple tight end sets and things like that, but it's not the same when you have Delaney Walker and Jonnu Smith, both of whom can block, both of whom can catch. It's not going to be the same when it's Anthony Ferkser who can catch but can't block, and Jeff Swaim who can block but can't catch, and then who knows behind them. It's not the same. So when you've got 5 eligible receivers in a passing down, it's going to be Brown, Jones, Reynolds, Ferkser, and then kind of the question of Henry or Evans. If it's more than like 3rd and 2, it's probably going to be Darrington Evans. But if it's a 1st and 10, I think those are your 5 eligible receivers. I think you're in 11 personnel. So they look at this. I think and this is how I look at it too, they look at it like it isn't just the big 3, but it's those guys, Ferkser and Reynolds, and I think they expect Ferkser and Reynolds to have big seasons because you can't take everybody away. You can't take everybody away and rush the passer at the same time. And if you don't rush the passer, Ryan Tannehill is smart enough to stand back there until somebody comes open. And ultimately, you're going to have to sell out something. And I think that is the entire mentality of the offense. I think every week that we get ready to break down a Titans game and we'll look at the other team on defense, I don't think it's going to be, okay, Buffalo has Tre'Davious White, so how worried are we about Tre'Davious White locking down? So I don't care.
That's fine. Just give it to another guy.
Who's their third corner? Who's their third and fourth corner? Who are their safeties? Okay, they've got Jordan Poyer. Jordan Poyer is pretty good in coverage. Well, guess what? Is Jordan Poyer coming down to stop Derrick Henry, or is Jordan Poyer going to worry about Josh Reynolds or Anthony Ferkser? And I think that's how they're going to look at it on offense. That is the key to the season, is how much can the other two guys, Reynolds and Ferkser, how much can they make a defense pay when the defense uses all of its resources to A, rush the passer, and B, stop the other three guys. And we talked about Joe Rexrode saying yesterday on the show that he noticed at practice Derrick Henry catching the ball a lot. I think the Titans need Derrick Henry this year to at least be a threat in the passing game. They don't need him to be Alvin Kamara. But just like he had that screen pass that he ran into the end zone for a touchdown against Cleveland, or like the big reception he had against the Texans in overtime last year, they need that threat of Derrick Henry. They need, all right, fine. You guys are going to come after Tannehill, and you're going to try to lock down these other guys. Well, if Derrick Henry slips out and we throw Derrick the ball 5 yards and everybody's worried about Julio and everybody's worried about AJ and my pass rushers are coming for the quarterback and you just dump the ball off to Derrick Henry, he's turning around and at least going 25 with it. And maybe a touchdown because that's what Derrick does when he gets out in the space like that. So that was kind of my big takeaway listening to AJ. We'll hear what Todd Downing has to say. We'll get to that in a little bit. But those are my takeaways. What do you think?
I think I also thought about how we as media, and I think as fans as well, worry about that gap in success between last year's offense and this year and a shift in offensive coordinator and losing Johnny Smith and Corey Davis. I think people were worried, okay, you've had that superstar offense last year. How can you bridge that gap and continue to have success on offense? And I don't think that that's a worry. I heard it from A.J. Brown. I heard it from Derrick Henry. You know, when Derrick Henry was asked about Todd Downing, he was like, well, it was the same thing when Arthur came in. It's just another offensive coordinator, and we're going to continue to work hard, and we're going to continue to be collaborative, and we're going to continue to be one cohesive unit, and we're going to continue to put in a lot of work on the field, in the weight room, and be that big superstar offense that we were last year and be even better this year. You know, the way that it sounded from Derrick Henry, they're not worried about a change in offensive coordinator. He's like, Todd Downing's been here. We've had multiple offensive coordinators in our life before. This isn't anything new. We're just going to continue to grind and continue to have that same success that we had last year. So that was a good sign to me as well. And also just that emphasis on collaboration. Mm-hmm. And it's not just about me. It's not just about that guy next to me. It's about this entire offense as a whole.
We talked about that last week when we listened to Julio. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about like, hey, I'm not a stats guy. I'm here to win.
Yeah.
And I was like, boy, that makes me feel good. And then after hearing that, you know, hearing what
I
they said,
it.
I mean, I think that now it's easy to say that when everybody is 0-0. It becomes a lot more difficult when you lose. But still, I'm just not, with the history of these guys, I'm not worried of those kind of issues. We'll hear what Todd Downing, the offensive coordinator, had to say next. Then Chris Sanders will join us. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving. Go to thegamenashville.com to check out Nashville's best deals. This week's new deal is a $50 gift card for only $25 to Nashville's newest and largest axe-throwing venue, Bad Axe Throwing, Nashville in downtown at 648 Fog Street. Aim for a great time at Bad Axe Throwing Nashville while enjoying panoramic downtown views, live music on the Bad Axe stage, curated cocktails from the full bar, and a Northwoods-inspired menu with a Southern twist. We've got other great deals still going, including $30 at Boom Boss Craft Pizza and Tap House for only $15. Buy one, get one free for Beach Bend Park and Splash Lagoon. $30 Party Foul gift card for only $15 and $20 to Grain and Berry for only $10. Get yours now while they last at thegamenashville.com. Stillman and Company, it's ESPN 102.5 The Game, and we're streaming on the Game Nashville app. Stillman and Company, ESPN 102.5. The game, ESPN 94.9 is the home for Sounds baseball tonight. The Sounds and the Gwinnett Stripers do battle in Gwinnett. Pre-game show 5:50, first pitch 6:05. Sounds baseball on ESPN 94.9, presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans and 312 Pizza Company. Chris Sanders, former Titans receiver, will join us after what we heard from A.J. Brown about spreading the ball around. We'll see what Chris has to say about that. Meanwhile, offensive coordinator Todd Downing met with the media after minicamp today.
Hey, Coach, I know it's only a small sample size at this point, but what have you seen from your group, and how have you liked the way that they've integrated between the rookies and the vets?
Yeah, it's been great to see those guys work together and start to build on that chemistry as an offense. And we're just in the early process of this, but it's been fun to watch those guys work. I like the work ethic. I like how hard they've been trying to refine the details and come together and get to know one another as teammates.
Jim Wyatt.
Pat, I'm curious. How did you find out officially that the team was getting Julio, and then what might his addition mean, for the offense?
Yeah, we have a communication system in place with Coach Brable and John, and that worked down to me. So I got the news as I was here at work and excited about it, and certainly was good news to hear.
Teron.
Yeah, Coach Todd, with you having, Julio and then all these other weapons, how do you go about addressing the whole concept of maybe not having enough balls to go around?
Yeah, I don't look at it quite like having enough football to go around. Each week's going to present its own opportunity and challenge from defenses that we face, and each week's going to require something different to play winning football, and that's what our job is as an offense, is to play complementary and winning football. And I believe the addition of Julio and having weapons on the outside and in the backfield and at the line of scrimmage, those are all just ways to help us stay balanced, to help us to attack in different ways. And that's our biggest chart. It's not to make sure that a certain amount of mouths are fed and all that. It's a week by week practice.
Paul.
Todd, lack of one-on-ones in a camp like this, kind of a new development. I know you'll take what you can get, but did you miss something like that? Would it have been good for your guys, particularly to get that work?
Yeah, I think any work that we can get is good work, obviously. And like you mentioned, we'll take what we can get. We were able to get some good full-speed stuff in the 7-on-7 and be able to work some of that process as well. I love one-on-ones because you get a chance to go watch guys compete, but we weren't able to do that at this time. And so we made our adjustments and got better where we could.
Teresa.
Todd, with the addition of Julio, the offense such that he kind of fits into what you've already kind of been planning to do this year? Or do you maybe go to the drawing board and it's like, this guy gives us a chance to maybe do some extra things with the offense?
Well, when you're dealing with a skill set like his, I think there's certainly times that you get excited about maybe something that he could do or has shown over his career that he can do. But we don't change our foundation or our scheme just for the addition of a player. I'm excited that he has history in a scheme like this in his time in Atlanta, and I think that's going to help transition a little bit, and it's going to make it a little bit easier for us to highlight some of those skills that he has and in different ways that he's done in the past.
Gentry.
Yeah, Todd, you've talked before about not a priority to put your own stamp on the offense and not trying to be Arthur as well. When you're talking about what a Todd Downing offense looks like, how close was that in your mind to what the offense is now? Meaning, are we expected? Is this a matter of tweaks, or do you really feel as though there's an ideal out there that you can bring to this?
I'll leave it to you to call it a Todd Downing offense. This is a Tennessee Titans offense. And, I want this to be the most effective offense for helping us win football games. And whatever that means week to week, it'll adjust. My vision for this offense is simply that we are a disciplined, high effort, high energy, sound football team, and that we go out and help our team win ball games by not doing stuff to get ourselves beat. And the rest of it's going to fall into place. As I said, it turns into a week-by-week thing. But this certainly isn't a Todd Downing offense. It's a Tennessee Titans offense.
Joe Rexrode.
Yeah, Todd, kind of following up on Teresa's question. I mean, would you say that, those three guys in particular are, I guess, an elite trio, an extreme trio for the other side to look at on a given week? How much of an advantage could it be? And what do you think you'll see, from defensive coordinators this year in terms of trying to adjust to that?
Yeah, I don't really get into ranking trios or groups of players that I've coached or am coaching now against anybody else in the league. Our goal is to be better each day that we go out there. And my hope is that those three grow together with the rest of the skill guys on offense, and that they create a bond and a cohesion with the offensive line and with Ryan, and that they're able to accomplish their own personal goals, through a selflessness to the team. And that's my biggest challenge for those guys and for myself included. How defenses want to play us, I'm sure we'll get some different looks. I'm sure we'll get some unscouted things and possibly some looks that we wouldn't have gotten if Julio wasn't here. But our job as a staff is to put together a sound game plan each week, and we'll try to be ready for whatever they throw at us.
Two more, John Glennon.
I was going to ask you about a couple of the long shot guys, the tryout guys, Adam Kuhn and Hassan French. Wonder if you've dealt with guys like that before that, hadn't played college football, and sort of the challenge, at the same time you're trying to get a team and an offense ready, but you're also trying to basically teach these guys a lot. Also, how do you go about doing that?
Yeah, I was telling this story to a couple guys earlier today. But early in my career, when I was with the Vikings, I was on the staff when Brock Lesnar tried out in training camp. So it's officially my second former wrestler that I've been around. Both those guys have an incredible work ethic. They're both in really good shape, obviously. They're both hungry. They're both high character individuals. They're working really hard to learn the positions and learn our scheme. And I'm excited for them and their opportunity. Both of them are approaching it in a very professional manner, and you can tell that it's no accident that both of them had success in their respective other sports. We'll see where it goes from there. Like I said, guys that are working hard and will have an opportunity. So excited to see what they do with it.
Last question, Ben Arthur.
Hey, Todd, in what ways does, kind of adding a star receiver of Julio's caliber maybe open up the playbook for you just because of kind of the coverages that you guys may see this year?
I think that, remains to be seen a little bit. But certainly when you add a weapon of his caliber, it creates some fun opportunities from a game planning standpoint and gives you a little bit more flexibility. So we're excited about that, but I'm also excited about the rest of the guys and how hard they've been working at the wide receiver position. Josh Reynolds has been in here every day working. Those other guys, Marcus Johnson, and Chester Rogers, and, all those guys are out there, working extremely hard. Cody Hollister's been working his tail off. All those guys that have put in the work. Freddie Brown, all those guys. I'm excited to see what they can do, and I think that with that competition in that room, we can finish with a well-rounded position group.
Titans offensive coordinator Todd Downing. You think that Todd Downing is stressing the element of team as far as the Titans are concerned? The fact that, hey, let's not forget about Marcus Johnson. Let's not forget about Teddy Brown. Let's not forget about Des Fitzpatrick. Let's not forget about Jared Pinkney. Let's not forget about all those guys. Not just about Julio Jones, A.J. Brown, Anthony Ferguson. I will say this. The Titans always pride themselves on team. The last 2 weeks, as far as Vrabel, Tannehill, Henry, Brown, Jones, Downing, it seems like they're all just focused on team. And that was the gist I got there from Todd Downing. Chris Sanders will join us next, former Titans receiver. Now, he was worried when they traded for Julio. He was worried about how this was going to work, what the dynamic was going to be. We'll get to Chris Sanders. We'll get his thoughts on it next. Stillman and Company. We are delivered by TriStar Moving. It's ESPN 102.5 The Game, and we're streaming on the Game Nashville app. Derrick Henry has talked now with the Titans media since the acquisition of Julio Jones. A.J. Brown, Taylor Lewan, last week Julio Jones, yesterday Tannehill. Vrabel has talked multiple times. Todd Downing has now talked. And all they ever keep talking about is the team. Former Titans receiver Chris Sanders joins us now on the program. Chris, thank you for letting us get to the Titan players and obviously get to your reaction. I want to start with something Julio said last week, something that you were a little worried about when all of this was discussed. And you've played in the NFL, and you've played with some really good wide receivers, including guys that, perhaps one day will end up in the Hall of Fame. But Carl Pickens, we know, won't. But he was brought in to the Titans to kind of be the savior. And he certainly was not that, and you have obviously spoken about that experience a couple of times, since then. You were worried about Julio and how he would take to this team coming in here. Julio was asked a lot of questions about that last week. Here's one of Julio's answers. I want to play it, and then I want your reaction now to maybe how you feel about the chemistry of this team. Here's what Julio said last week.
It's just, at the end of the day, you want to create a winning culture. However you need to do it to get the job done. My whole career, I've never been a stat guy. Previous years, everybody always asking me, what you thinking you're going to do? What's your prediction? Things like that. I've never been a stat guy. I'm a team guy. I'm just excited to be a part of the organization, and whatever they need from me to do, I'm willing to do it and play my role and play it at a high level.
Chris, when you hear that, what do you think?
I had just like you said, I had the question coming in, but here's what settled it for me is I call Terry Robisky. Terry Robisky coached him in Atlanta and coached him, a while. And Terry Robisky said this. He said he's a total team player. He's a guy that doesn't want to have stats. He just wants to go out there and win games. So when you hear a guy like that wants to come into an organization and he just wants to win and bring his talent to the Tennessee Titans, it's just a recipe for success because that's the kind of guys that Mike Vrabel and J. Rob want. They don't want me guys. They want guys who want to be a part of it. And here's the key thing that he said, Jared. He said, I want to play my role. That is huge. You have a star receiver. You got a guy coming in with a great talent, and he says, I want to play my role. What is your role? Is your role catching 3 or 4 balls a game? And if he can keep doing that and he lives according to his words, man, I'm going to tell you something. We have a recipe for success.
Chris, it's funny you bring that up because just listening to all the press conferences, the Titan players, the fans celebrated as soon as they made the trade for Julio Jones.
Right.
The media has celebrated the Titans since they've done this. You turn on the TV, and is Tennessee a contender for the Super Bowl now that they've acquired Julio Jones? Just listening to everybody today, even Derrick Henry, there's kind of this sense of like, hey, that's all great, but I hope you're all right, but there's a lot of work to do. What is the mindset of somebody? You've been on an offense that had Eddie George, Derek Mason, Steve McNair, Frank Wycheck. What is kind of the mindset, and what is the fear going into the season when you know that you're that loaded on offense?
Jared, that's a great question because they go in the AFC South, the pressure's set in. We're going to have it. So I just think that these guys just have to come to camp and just work. Each guy keeps saying that. We got to come in and work. We got to come in and know our role. We just got to do our job. And the thing about it is, it sounds real dandy when we're in OTA, we're not in pads, but I want to see when it gets grimy. I want to see when it's 3rd and 4. I want to see when it's 3rd and 5. Are guys going to stick to the game plan on what they're talking about? So, we had Derek Mason. We had Frank Wycheck. We had Kevin Dyson. We had Yancey Thigpen. We had guys that came in and we worked. We said, okay, you know what? I know my role, and I'm going to go out there and make plays when my name is called.
How did you feel
sounds good. Was that?
Oh, well, I was just going to say, Chris Sanders with us. How did you feel as a player? You knew Eddie George was getting the ball. Now, you played with Eddie in college, but you knew Eddie was getting the ball. Before Eddie got there, when Chris Chandler was the quarterback, you were on the all-rookie team because Chris Chandler would chuck the ball 45 yards down the field to you. Eddie George comes. It's different. Steve McNair gets put in as starter.
Right.
It's different because you're going to want to run the ball with a young quarterback.
True.
How would you feel? Put yourself in AJ and Julio's shoes here. How would you feel knowing that deep down inside the best success for this offense is by turning around and giving the ball to number 22?
You see, you just said the key words, what's best for this team. And if those guys have the attitude of what they're talking about, that it's team first, us second, you just got to know your role. We had a whole bunch of wide receivers, but the team was built, or the offense was built around Eddie George. My whole attitude, my whole mindset was, I want to go to the Super Bowl. I want to win games. I want to win the AFC, and I want to accomplish one of my dreams. So if I have the mindset that I want to go to the Super Bowl, it don't matter if I catch like 14 balls. I don't care if I catch 16 that season. I just want to know my role. And I know that kind of sounds cute right now because no pads are on, but I'm telling you, Jared, if they keep this mindset up of guys just saying, you know what, I want to do my role. I don't care if I catch 5. I don't care if AJ Brown catches 6 and Julio Jones catches 1. My whole mindset is I want to win. So if they can do that, Jared, I'm going to tell you something, dog. It's the sky's the limit for these cats.
Chris Sanders with us. A.J. Brown today, every time you turn on TV, and even we do it, I do it. Honestly, you look at the names, Henry, Brown, Julio Jones, And AJ, not only did Todd Downing make a note of this today, the offensive coordinator, but AJ today was talking about the fact that it's not just about those guys, it's about some others as well. Here's what AJ Brown had to say, Chris.
I think it starts in the backfield. The guy we got in the backfield demands all the attention first. But I think you just got to play us honest. You got to play everybody honest, not just me and Julio. You got Ferkster, Josh Reynolds, all the other guys too. So, a lot of names that'll kind of sneak up on you. So we'll see how whatever coach they throw out there, we'll be ready.
Jared, can I comment on that, man?
Sure, go ahead.
That's what it's all about. He said, who's a prolific wide receiver. He said it starts in the backfield. That's football talk. But when you hear a prolific receiver saying it starts with Derrick Henry and then it comes to me, because he knows that if we win in the backfield and he starts making plays, then that just opens it up for A.J. Brown, Ferkser, Julio Jones, Evans, all those guys. So he knows if it starts back there, then we can go win some ball games. Go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, the fact that he's looking at everybody saying, hey, it ain't just about me and Julio and AJ. Don't forget about Ferkser and Reynolds. I think Ferkser and Reynolds may be the key to the entire season offensively for this team.
Huh? What you talking about, Willis?
I think that those guys, the matchups that they will get, and those opportunities, knowing that everybody's going to try to take away Derrick Henry, knowing everyone's going to try to take away A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, I think those guys could be like in the red zone and other things. That could be what makes or breaks the Titans.
Yeah, well, but see, here's the deal. It's all what Todd Downing is going to do, because the Tennessee Titans live in 12 personnel. So when you have 12 personnel, it's one back, two tight ends, two wide receivers. I don't know if wide receivers or 10 personnel, one back, 0 tight ends, and 4. If they do that, Jared, then I think that those guys can make plays. But that the Tennessee Titans live in 11 personnel and 12 personnel. So I agree with you 100% that if those guys get a chance to get in the slot and make some plays, or A.J. Leo Brown needs to break, then I think the defense are going to be like, okay, we're going to let down, go man-to-man outside, and that's where Dez Fitzpatrick, and that's where Josh Reynolds, and that's where Bassett can make plays.
Chris Sanders with us. Last thing for you, Chris. Bud Dupree yesterday was talking about, again, he wouldn't really update us on where he is with his ACL. Neither Lawan kind of did a little bit, but Bud Dupree was asked about kind of being the guy, the pass rushing guy, and basically took responsibility. And I'm paraphrasing what he said, but basically that's what I'm here to be. How important is it that actually comes to fruition and that Bud Dupree is the guy that the Titans can rely on to get sacks this year?
Jared, we definitely need it. Because if you look at the defense, what was the Achilles heel was getting to the quarterback. How many sacks did the Tennessee Titans have last year? They had 19 sacks. That's not going to win you in the ball games. So if Dupree comes in here, and even Autry comes in here and just gets above that number and get a couple of stops, it's just going to make the offense better and also the defense better. So if he comes in here, just say he comes in here and get 11 sacks, that is going to improve the defense. And also it's going to make everybody better. It's going to make Landry, it's going to make Simmons, it's going to make those guys better, because now you have a bona fide pass rusher that's going to command attention. So I think it's great. I hope that he comes in here healthy. I hope he comes in camp, and I hope he just wrecks shop and gets between 11 and 13 sacks.
How did you feel the last day of minicamp knowing that you were gone for about 4 or 5 weeks until it was time to crank it up for camp?
I couldn't wait to get back. I just love playing football. Yeah, I went to Cancun and got some rest and did all those things to get my body right. But man, I was chomping at the bit, especially when we came off the Super Bowl. And then next year, I was chomping at the bit. I just love playing football. I love OTAs. I love camp. And I'm gonna tell you something. I was chomping at the bit to come back and try to win a championship. But we came up short. But hey, I was chomping at the bit.
Sounds like the guys at Titans say they want the guys who love ball. Sounds like you fit into that category.
Oh,
Chris
man,
Sanders,
I love ball.
As always, former Titans receiver. Chris, appreciate you. We will talk
always, my friend. You take care.
Yep,
right.
Chris Sanders joining us on the program. So it sounds like A.J. Brown putting his hand in the air and saying it starts in the backfield, which I heard that too, and I thought, good. Because I believe it starts in the backfield. So when I heard that, I thought, good for A.J. Brown. But it is interesting that he says that, and that's what Chris Sanders jumps up off the table and says, hold on, Jared. I want to respond to what AJ said before we get into kind of discussing about it. And I just think that right now, and again, Mike Vrabel said this early in his tenure as coach of the Titans, and I thought that it was a really good point that he made that has stayed with me for forever, which is your team's culture doesn't matter when you're winning. It really only matters when you're losing. It matters when things are bad. That's what keeps everything together. It feels, though, even though everything's 0-0 and they're not losing games and Julio Jones isn't thinking, hey, if I got the ball more, we'd win more games kind of thing, it feels like they've got the right culture on offense to make all of these parts work. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Next hour, we're going to give away tickets to see Jimmy Buffett. That's right, Jimmy Buffett at the Ascend Amphitheater. So we'll give those away, plus Jason Fitz will join us. But coming up next, I feel like we're the only people that have stayed consistent as far as the college football playoff is concerned. Because apparently there's momentum now moving that this could happen sooner rather than later. We will discuss that next. Stillman and Company, we are delivered by TriStar Moving. It's ESPN 102.5 The Game. But first we'll hit the headlines with Caroline as well. It's ESPN 102.5 The Game, and we're streaming on the Game Nashville app. Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, ESPN 1025 The Game. I cannot announce the official number yet, but I do want to give a shout out to the Nashville Predators and our radio station 1025 The Game that they raised a bunch of money yesterday for the Boys and Girls Clubs of Middle Tennessee celebrating 615 Day. I want to thank all of our hourly sponsors that were out there that were helping us raise all this money yesterday when we were out at the Ford Ice Center. Happy to have played a little role in that. And as I said yesterday, second time in my life that I have kind of felt compelled to bid on something, bid on it and won. So I won something yesterday.
Congratulations.
I'm not going to tell people what it was.
Okay.
But I won something. I was stunned. I was stunned at the price I paid for what I won. I mean, it was one of those ones that's like
low or high?
Low.
Oh.
It was like, I'll throw some shekels.
Well, I'm happy you got a deal.
Oh, it was one of those.
It all goes to a good cause.
Oh, it was a great cause. 100% of the Boys and Girls Club. But I literally was just like, yeah, I'll throw some shekels.
Why not?
Like thinking that, and I've done this before. There were a couple things. I'm part of that Preds auction thing. So every game for the Preds Foundation, I would get one of those things to look at. Mm-hmm. And you should sign up for this if you can, because it's not, you don't pay anything to sign up for it. It's free. But, I mean, every game they had something, and I'd look at it and be like, oh, maybe I'll get this. And every time I'd get outbid. There was something good, and I'd get outbid. And then this, I was like, I kind of like this. All right, fine, I'll click. And then I figured, immediately,
it's a cool
I'm
thing.
going to get outbid. I didn't get outbid. I got a text message. I was walking around the neighborhood yesterday, got a text message. You won? I'm like, I'll take it. But, again, I can't give out the full number because it hasn't been totally tallied up yet. But any money raised, even if it's a $5 donation to the Boys and Girls Club, is something big. But I just want to thank the radio station for allowing us to be a part of it. It's time now for Headlines with Caroline.
We're spanning the sports world. It's Headlines with Caroline on Stillman and Company, right here on Nashville's best sports talk,
ESPN
1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
So, I don't know what about basketball in the NBA, but today everything just decided to just blow up into flames. So, a bunch of things have happened, a ton of breaking news in the NBA today, so I'll break it down for you. First of all, NBA insider Shams Charania reported that Suns point guard Chris Paul is out indefinitely after he entered COVID-19 health and safety protocols. I mean, CP single-handedly secured the Suns the Western Conference Finals. He had a 37-point game in Game 4 against the Nuggets, so that is going to be a huge loss for the Suns entering the Western Conference Finals. And I had a little bit of, kind of scary deja vu hearing that he was entering COVID-19 protocols, because this is the first athlete that I've heard of in a long time to have COVID-19 restrictions placed upon them.
Now, isn't Kawhi hurt too?
Kawhi is hurt. So per ESPN's Ramona Shelburne and Brian Windhorst, Kawhi is also out for Game 5 against the Jazz with a right knee injury. He may be out for longer than Game 5, but for sure Game 5 tonight. He tweaked it on a late drive in the game last night. I saw him land, and it was one of those things he just kind of wins.
Past my bedtime for that game last night.
Yeah, I saw the highlights. I caught the highlights. The way he landed, it was just, it didn't look, season career ending, but it definitely looked uncomfortable. So PG and Kawhi, two postseason, huge marquee names, are out.
So those two are out.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Paul's out.
Chris Paul and Kawhi are both out.
Right. Donovan Mitchell has been hurt. I mean, This is in the Western Conference, this is James Harden and Kyrie Irving are hurt with Brooklyn, excuse me. Let me say this. This is just my overall NBA take. And I know there are a bunch of coaches fired and whatnot, but this is my NBA take today. I mean, I've sat here and wanted parity for years. I hate the super teams. Mm-hmm. I want the parity. I want fun. I want good basketball. I don't want 197 to 196. And we're getting a lot of that right now in the playoffs. And I'm still kind of like, yawn. But last night, forget about the first three quarters. I saw Twitter just ripping the Nets apart yesterday. And I took Brooklyn and Carolines. I mean, I took Milwaukee and Carolines. So I was like, here you go. And Then I turned it on with 8 minutes to go. And I watched Durant last night. But my bigger thing, and maybe this is because sometimes I get pegged as a glass half empty guy. My bigger thing was that Antetokounmpo, he's supposed to be a huge star. Like, he's supposed to be sitting at the breakfast table with KD and LeBron.
Reigning defensive MVP.
Choked.
Yeah.
He choked last night. Middleton drives the lane. This was one of those ones where it was basically going to be whoever gets last shot's probably going to win the game. And Middleton drives the lane and drops the ball off for Antetokounmpo, and he fumbles it and loses it, and Durant picks it up, and the game is over. Now, not to take anything away from what Durant did last night, but Giannis Antetokounmpo, are you not expecting the ball? You're the Greek freak. So, my bigger issue last night, I watched the game. It was a great ending to the game. Kevin Durant was freaking awesome last night.
He went off.
But my bigger issue was Giannis. And maybe it's because I bet the Bucks last night.
I think it was.
But it was Giannis.
I get a text from
You can't make a free throw, and and you're not looking for the ball. Get your head out of your rear end. It's the NBA. You're playing Brooklyn. You win this, you may win the. This is going to be the hardest test for the Milwaukee Bucks, and if they win it, they'll probably win the championship. And Antetokounmpo isn't looking for the ball. Just freaking great.
I get a text from Jared last night, and I wasn't watching the games last night. I was kind of bopping around. I was busy last night. I wasn't watching the games. I get a text from Jared that says, Giannis, what a bum. And I was like, yes! Victory for the Nets. I picked them in Carolines.
KD was awesome.
KD was awesome last night. But a ton of other NBA news. So Stan Van Gundy, former now head coach of the New Orleans Pelicans, fired after just one season with the team. They finished with a 31-41 record this past year. So that's a 4-3-1 win percentage, which makes Stan Van Gundy the least winningest coach in Pelicans/Hornets history. And that is saying something.
So I have a theory about Stan Van Gundy. I had Stan Van Gundy sympathy when he got canned by Pat Riley in Miami, and then they won the title with Dwayne Wade and Shaq. I no longer have Stan Van Gundy sympathy. He is, if his last name wasn't Van Gundy, we would look at him like the Freddie Kitchens of the NBA. I mean, he is just not there. He is just not in that zip code. And I have no idea what's going on in New Orleans because who cares about the New Orleans Pelicans? But it's like every week Stan Van Gundy gets fired. So enough Stan Van Gundy. Go back to TV. Goodbye, Stan.
But this is my take on it. Okay, you should not be losing 41 games with Zion Williamson on your roster. However, is it fair to fire him after 1 year, especially when that year is COVID?
They fired Freddie Kitchens in a non-COVID year, but they fired him after 1 year, and it was fair to fire Freddie Kitchens.
Especially COVID.
I'm with you. Did Zion get hurt this year?
Zion is always hurt.
So I don't know how much I look at. I mean, again, a new coach is not fixing. The NBA is not about coaching. Everybody needs to understand this. The NBA has nothing to do with coaching. Steve Nash has never coached a day in his life. You think he coached Kevin Durant to pull up yesterday that three-pointer with Middleton right in his face where he had to kind of reel around, just kind of put it up there? The NBA, there is even what Phil Jackson did. And Phil Jackson was smart because Phil's only like, I'm only coaching Michael and I'm only coaching Kobe. And I'm not coaching anybody else. And yet Phil Jackson, like we all watched The Last Dance, all the behind-the-scenes drama, that's what Phil Jackson was there for. Screw the triangle offense. Doesn't matter. 5-on-5 got Michael Jordan. Who cares what offense you run? He scored a bunch of points under Doug Collins. Michael did what Michael wanted to do. None of the times when we heard about Michael Jordan talking about, I was mad because they did this and I was motivated to play well, so I figured if we ran the triangle offense and I dropped it off to Luke Longley and then came back. He never talked about that. This is not important. It doesn't matter. But when Dennis Rodman wants to go to Las Vegas, there's Phil Jackson, who's the one who's got to broker the deal in order to get Dennis to do it and not lose the season while they're doing it. When Scottie Pippen wants to check himself out of a playoff game, there's Phil Jackson to be like, okay, this is what I got to manage. So coaching in the NBA is the biggest load of crap in all of sports. And this is why these coaches probably know it too, honestly. They probably know, look, I'm going to catch all the heat when we lose. I play a very small role in any of this. It's not like those players went to Brooklyn to go play for Steve Nash. They just go where they want to go. It's not like LeBron went to Miami to play with Eric Spoelstra. So my job is to just, do whatever, kind of massage the players and make sure everybody's okay. It's babysitting. And that's why, like, the Orlando Magic.
Load managing.
Well, that's why the Orlando Magic run through a new coach every 3 years. Because
they're just not good.
They never have any good players. So, that's, again, the coaching in the NBA, the coaches do nothing. So you can tell me, I know Scott Brooks got fired today.
Mm-hmm.
Who else got fired?
Donnie Nelson, president of basketball operations and GM of Dallas Mavericks.
I thought that guy was gone.
After 24 years.
I forgot about him.
He's out.
And again, what's he supposed to do? Go get another Luka?
Well, he brought Luka and Dirk Nowitzki. He was driving the car on getting Dirk Nowitzki and Luka Doncic, and he lost his job. But I thought it was so funny the way that ESPN.com phrased this. Tim McMahon wrote this article. It says, this firing comes after an internal friction due to the increasing decision-making influence of Mavericks director of quantitative research. Friction. Internal friction.
What? Okay, all right. You know what? Donnie Nelson's like me. He doesn't need the analytic people telling him.
Yeah.
We need to give Luka the ball and shoot more threes. Okay, I got you.
That sounds like a wonderful idea. We should give Luka the ball.
What's next?
So, we talked yesterday about some kind of new budding broadcasters, maybe some movement from ESPN to Fox to CBS, whatever it may be. We said that Alex Smith has an audition with ESPN, with Fox Sports, to do Monday Night Football, or just football in general. RG3 had an audition with ESPN and now Fox, offering big roles if he decides to retire from playing. And now, I don't think that this is a decision that RG3 is going to take lightly. I don't think it'll be a money decision, but I think I would take it if I were him. And also, Fox has extended an offer to Mark Sanchez to be a game analyst.
So you forget about Mark Sanchez. Mark Sanchez is average.
But fumbler.
He's an average analyst, and I say average in a nice way.
Mm-hmm. Nothing wrong with average.
I have no idea if RG3 is a good analyst or a bad analyst because I've never seen him call a game. So I wouldn't know. I wasn't part of this audition process. If you knock their socks off in the audition, take the job. Because you're never going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. And your lifespan for your career, you'll make more money as a backup in the NFL than you would as like the number 3 guy at CBS, which I think is the job. That 3/4, if it's an East Coast 3, it's usually Gumbel and Gannon. If it's a West Coast, it's probably Harlan and Trent Green. So it's probably that spot that CBS is going to offer RG3.
ESPN and Fox. CBS has not entered the conversation, but not to say that he's
I wouldn't be
eliminated
surprised
from
to
it.
see CBS get in there.
Right.
If I don't know if this is a studio job or if this is a game job for RG3.
Just says game analyst. I would assume that's a
For games.
studio.
No, I would game analyst. I think that's color.
You think?
I do. And I would just tell RG, if RG3 is really that good, take the job. Because once you have the job, then you got to lose the job. Whereas you had a great audition in 2021, you come back in 2023, all the jobs are filled, or they've got a new guy they like, or your audition really isn't that good anymore. I mean, this could be, if RG3 is that good, if he really wowed him, this could be a 20-year career for RG3 doing this. So I would say do it. That's just my 2 cents.
I would say go ahead and do it because I'm with you. Where RG3 was in the NFL is his ceiling.
Sure.
He's not going to...
He's Lamar Jackson's backup.
He is not somehow just going to bud into all of a sudden a Super Bowl MVP quarterback. So go ahead and take it. And my biggest thing is advocating for athletes post-sport. So NFL, not for long, and if you are set up with a good amount of money for several years in the future, go ahead and do that.
Those are headlines with Caroline. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. So I'm against 12 teams in the college football playoff. I think it should be 8, and I think the fact that nobody's pushing back on it is kind of obnoxious. But coming up next, I was asked a question this morning when I did a morning hit in Louisville, which I do once a week, and I was they didn't like the fact that I'm against the 12-team playoff. We'll get to that coming up next. And why I cannot believe myself and what I heard for the reason for the 12-team playoff, even though they may be right, Not right in terms of being right as in why they may have done this. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, we're live from the Wholesaling Studio, powered by RumbleOn.com. It's ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Paul's absolutely right. There are people in that room who think it can happen before the contract expires, and there are also people in the room who are highly doubtful of that and need to be shown some evidence that it's possible. When they go in that meeting on Thursday and Friday to discuss this in person for the first time, I would be surprised if they walk out not agreeing on 12. But that being said, there are a lot of details that they have to hash out. Do they all agree on the fact that the first 4 seeds will not have a home game? Do they agree that those first round games will be at home for on-campus sites for the other ones, and how the bowls work in? Major questions. But once they agree on that, they have to convince the university presidents next week in Dallas.
There you go. That was Heather Dinich here on ESPN saying that they haven't decided when they're going to have all that ready, and they're not sure, and they don't know. And here we are, and we still feel pretty confident it's going to be 12, right?
That's all we've heard. In the beginning, we heard that there was going to be a discussion about possibly 8, 12, 16, 24, whatever it may be.
But now it seems like it's going to be 12.
But we've only heard 12 since then. So, yes.
So you hated this last week when it was 12.
I still hate it.
Okay, good. I still hate it too. Apparently, we're the only two people in the world that hated it then that still hate it now. Trevor even couched it a little bit yesterday. When Trevor, who hated 12 last week, said, well, I like 12 better than 4. I didn't ask you if you like 12 better than 4. I asked you if you liked it. That's not the same. But anywho, I was on the morning show in Louisville, and they saw the clip where I lost my mind last week about Cincinnati and Indiana. And they asked me, why do I hate the 12-team playoff so much? I hate the 12-team playoff because it's not college football. You know, you want to play 64, that's basketball. That is not college football. You want to play a home playoff games, that's not college football. Now, I know everybody will say, well, you got to change with the times and you got to adapt, you got to whatever. But then they brought up this idea. And I wish I had thought about it when they asked me. But they brought up this idea. Remember how everybody is anti-participation trophy? Mm-hmm. Like the James Harrison a couple years ago, Steeler linebacker, who, put up on Twitter, I'm taking these participation trophies back because my kids don't need participation trophies. You only get trophies when you get something. Here was the argument. Drew Diener, the host in Louisville, I used to work with, and they have me on every week. Here's what his argument to me was when I told him that I hate the 12-team playoff because I don't think this is college football. Here's what he said. Listen to what he said.
Let me stop right there because let me take you back to the year here when Louisville, when you were here and they were, in the hunt for a 4-team playoff. Think of all the conversation that generated here that it's never happened before. Now you've got a 12-team playoff. You can have 20 markets like Louisville was that year where they're going to be, invested in college football more than they ever have been in parts of the country that may not be big college football areas. That what's wrong with having more parts of the country interested and in play for a playoff spot?
And I, think that the people that already don't care about college football aren't going to start caring. Like Boston, and I listen to Boston Talk Radio every day. They are not going to stop talking about the Patriots in the middle of November because Boston College might have a shot at the playoff. They're never going to care about it in New York. They're never going to care about it in big metropolitan cities. The second thing is, isn't that kind of participation trophy-ish? Like, we know we can't compete with Alabama, but because we've got 12, let's do it. Hey, it's good, right? Yay, yeah, yes. And I'm like, no. That feels very participation trophy-ish. Whereas before, like making the college football playoff is a big deal. Oklahoma has made it like 5 times. They've never won the first game. They've always gotten knocked out. And yet, I think it's a big accomplishment for Lincoln Riley that he keeps making the college football playoff. If it's 12 teams, we're going to forget about who made it last year by the time we get to the NFL playoffs, much less the college football playoff the next year. I mean, so I hear the argument, and I get it from a business standpoint of, hey, Louisville as a football program, outside of 1 year when Lamar Jackson went to Clemson and lost, but outside of that 1 year, never would have ever had a shot at the college football playoff. So now they at least get a shot. But what's that mean? And there are 2 years, and I use Louisville as the example here because A, I know it the best, and B, because that's the market that we're talking about. There were 2 years where Louisville had a legitimate shot to either make the playoff or make the national title game. Mm-hmm. 2006, they lost at Rutgers. Rutgers was really good with Greg Schiano that year. West Virginia, Rutgers, Louisville, they were all good in the Big East. And it ended up being Rutgers ended up beating Louisville and knocked them out of the national title picture. Okay. That team could have beaten Ohio State and won the national title. But that was one team. Bobby Petrino goes to the Falcons. Everything becomes a mess for everybody involved. Then there was the Lamar Jackson year. Remember that great game, Lamar Jackson and Louisville versus Deshaun Watson and Clemson, and it was a Death Valley Saturday night showdown, and Louisville lost both of those games. Well, guess what? If you make it to the playoff, that's who you play. And you lose. So it doesn't really make much of a difference. But hey, at least you get to talk about it on the radio there. Like, to me, that's not college football.
And to me, like, I see their argument, but if you only care about your college football team when they're in the playoffs, then you don't actually care about college football. You're not actually a college football fan. I will use LSU, for example, because that's the what I know best. It's more fun when your team's in the playoffs. I get it. It's more fun when your team is in the national conversation. But you know why it's really fun? Because you went through those years where they weren't that great. And I can guarantee you that there will be nearly 103,000 seats, butts in those seats in Tiger Stadium, even after LSU was garbage fire last year, because people care about LSU football. They'll care about it when they're bad. They'll care about it when they're good. A lot of other programs are the same way. University of Tennessee, there's going to be butts in those seats because people care about the balls.
There'll be less butts, though. There'll be less butts.
But there will still be butts.
But there'll be less butts. I mean, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, like the argument that, but maybe people will start caring about my team if we can make it to the playoffs.
Well, I'll give you an example. This is the Predators.
That's pathetic. I'm sorry.
Well,
that's
I'll say
sad.
it like with the Predators. If, the NHL didn't let in all the teams in the league that don't absolutely suck into the playoffs, the Predators aren't going to make it this year, right? Like, we know that. Like, they wouldn't have made it. They made it.
It was fun.
And people had a good time.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's the NHL. That's why I looked at it. Again, if you make the playoff in college football, your coach should be celebrated. I want to fire the general manager of the Predators, even though they made the playoffs this past year. We just talked about all these NBA coaches that made the playoffs and got fired. You get fired when you're not good enough, and now we want it to be like that in college football? So I'm sorry. Again, the idea to me of, it'll be more exciting to have more teams in the playoff. I don't know. Basketball went from 65 to 68. I'm not sure it's all that more exciting. Seems kind of similar. Fitz will join us next. What does he think about all of this, or has he backtracked? Because I do feel like there's perhaps a mandate at your former employer, Caroline, about loving this new 12-team playoff. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. You know I love those guys. Summer weather is here, and this is the time of year when your AC system will be working overtime. If your unit is nearing the end of its lifespan or starting to have trouble keeping your home cool, now is the time to replace it. Hiller is offering special financing on HVAC systems this summer. Get a new system installed and pay 0 interest for 60 months. Don't wait until you're uncomfortable. Go ahead and ensure you're ready for peak temperatures. Visit happyhiller.com for all of the details. As always, happy you'll be, or the service is free. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, proud supporters of the Nashville Predators and the Tennessee Volunteers. Hiller, call the Happy Face Truck today. Stillman and Company, delivered by TriStar Moving. Let's give away some Jimmy Buffett tickets this segment. So be listening for your chance to win those. We will get to your texts on the college football playoff. And again, last week when we first heard 12, there were a lot of people that were totally against it. And now they're kind of for it. And I just can't live my life like that. Now, I'm somebody who, when you hear evidence or you hear somebody else's point, you can hear their point and say, okay, all right, I see, it makes a little sense. And when Jamie Chatwell said at Coastal Carolina, hey, I can look my guys in the face and say to recruits, you guys, if you play your butts off, you'll have a chance to win the title. Fine. Now, Jamie Chatwell will leave Coastal Carolina at some point, and somebody else will be coaching those guys, but that's okay. But I still hate a 12-team playoff. This is not college basketball. This is college football. I hate home playoff games in college football. This is not college baseball. Jason Fitz joins us now, ESPN Radio, presented by Blood Assurance. Give blood, give local, save lives. Fitzy, your thoughts on a 12-team college football playoff. Do you hate it? Do you like it? How did you feel last week when it was announced? How do you feel now?
Well, I don't know why you hate nice things, Stillman. I don't have a problem with it. Like, I think they did a good job of trying to find a happy medium. The one thing I didn't want to do was see college football expand enough to just start a conversation about the next expansion. So I think 12 does a nice job of solidifying that. And I think that the way they valued conference championships also was an interesting twist. And frankly, the fact that they've given at least Group of Five hope that they can come in and get their opportunity to shine, I think there's a lot of good from it. Frankly, I think it'll take several years. We're going to see blowouts the first few years, but over time, does it spread recruiting out a little bit? Maybe, and that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to me.
See, everything you just said can be accomplished with 8, and can be accomplished with 8 more meaningfully than it does with 12. I mean, I'm sorry, but this idea of, hey, you know what? There's more teams in it. Way to go. The little guy could get in 8. The conference champions, 5 automatic qualifiers if there's 8. And nobody's pushing back saying, doesn't 12 water it down a little bit? Because I think the SEC is the reason it's 12. I think everybody else would have been fine with 8, and the SEC said, no, we want 12. Because the SEC wants 3 teams in it. And I think it's ridiculous.
I mean, I would challenge your mindset on just the SEC. I think the Big Ten's probably looking at it thinking, hey, we got a shot. We can get 3 teams in this thing. Like, look, the committee's going to value differently. And so I've seen a lot of the articles that have been popped up of what would a 12-team playoff have looked like every year for the last several years. The fail in that is that it doesn't really acknowledge what the committee's going to go through in deciding 12. Like, when I sat through the mock committee process, the amount of argument that happened over who was going to make New Year's 6 bowl games because they understood the importance to the programs and the money behind it. So I think the committee at 12 is going to look at really what team is out there that deserves a shot. Are we going to see a real shot at a 3-loss champion? Probably. Like, I mean, that's just real in the new structure. But does that make it meaningless? Not to me. I mean, I don't have a problem with playoff expansion because, frankly, I didn't have a problem with playoff expansion in the NFL. Like, they added a team, and I thought, heck, that gives more fan bases an opportunity to watch and have something to love. Like, I don't care if all 12 teams come from the SEC. I just want to see the best possible scenario, and I realize all 12 can't come from there, but you get my point. I want to see the best possible scenario to get the most teams that are deserving in the playoff. That's all I care about. Frankly, I wouldn't have cared if they gave absolutely no pretense to how they were picking each of those 12 teams.
So then why don't we just get 30 teams in there?
Well, I mean,
the more the merrier, baby.
30, I think 30 is probably logistically a nightmare. But you want to tell me, like, if, and I realize the first-round games will be a home game, but there will be additional playoff games that will be at neutral sites, right? Like, so you want to tell me that the Music City Bowl wouldn't kill to be an opportunity to be part of the playoff instead of just a bowl game? Like, I think it will give us some more meaning to some of the bowl games that are now completely meaningless anyway, just by byproduct of what's happened already. So I have no problem with that. And realistically, every year we flock to watch 16-1 and 15-2 in the men's college basketball tournament, even though 99% of the time they're blowouts, because we want that amount of content. Like, we want the opportunity to watch more. Why do we not want to watch more? If I have an opportunity to watch a college football game that's a meaningless bowl game nobody cares about, or I can make it a first-round playoff game I'm watching, I'm going to watch a first-round playoff game.
But it is meaningless because if Cincinnati plays Indiana and the winner plays Alabama, it is meaningless. Like, I know that you will tell me that, hey, they could beat Alabama, but they're not going to, and they're never going to. And this is exactly why, I hear the idea of, hey, we like it in basketball. That's basketball. College football was the one sport. Fitz, how many college basketball games are you going to watch in November and December this year? None, because there's so much more important stuff going on. In college football, in September, a big LSU-Florida game carries legitimate weight and huge SEC ramifications, and it just doesn't anymore because the regular season becomes meaningless when you expand it so that, hey, anybody with a 3-loss team, you're in. And I'm fine with that in the NBA, and I'm fine with that in the NHL, and I'm fine with that in some of these other sports. But like Major League Baseball wants to expand, and they probably will. And I'm against it because Major League Baseball is made up over 162 games. And if you can't figure out who the 5 best teams in each league are over 162, and then you get to play a 163, then seriously, really? And that's how I feel about this with college football, which is, was it always fair in college football? No, it wasn't always fair. But at the end of the day, at least the values of what college football was based upon how you perform the entire year no longer matters anymore.
Well, it's a shift in what's valued, right? Like, so I would argue that, first of all, these big non-conference games will become huge opportunities to get a massive resume kick and also seeding opportunities because people are going to care about getting that first-round bye for conference champions. So I think there's still some value to that in the process. And then the other part of it is, what are you trying to crown? Like, I will give you that I think the one thing that's changed massively is the conversation around what matters to college football, because in the past it's always been we want the best team to win the national championship. Well, in every other sport, we love the fact that it's charmed, to your point, in the Stanley Cup playoffs, that frankly a hot goalie can take any team, even the second to worst team in the playoffs, all the way to the Stanley Cup final, right? Like, we understand that. We appreciate the fact that the NFL isn't rooting for the Patriots to go undefeated. They're rooting for the Giants to pull off the upset in the Super Bowl because they want unpredictability. Like, there are very few sports that don't try and get that. The NBA is one that frankly gets killed constantly for being too predictable. College football is in the same cycle. Like, at some point, you at least got to break it up to have some other conversation, because I don't think Herbie was wrong when he said, months ago that we know 3 of the 4 college football playoff teams for the next several years. That's not good for the sport long term. If you're trying to get people interested in your sport everywhere, casual fans and diehard fans, having a completely predictable outcome doesn't really handle that. So, is there more draw? Like, will somebody from the Pac-12 care more about a USC game because they realize that there's a playoff spot on the line? I think so. I think that even though it may water it down to you as a diehard college football fanatic, when you start to look at the casual fan, knowing that there's a playoff spot on the line for a UCLA-USC game that usually doesn't matter that late in the year for 2 teams that may or may not be good, now there's a playoff spot on the line. You're going to see more people paying attention to that game. So, but if that were true, then more people would care about like the NHL playoffs over the course of the, when those happen. And I love, like, when my team's in, I'm all in. But I just don't think Jason Fitz, our guest, presented by Blood Assurance, give blood, give local, save lives. I just don't think that people are going to care. Like, I hear what you're saying, hey, if there's a playoff spot, and I do think that it'll mean more for the conference championship games. That will give it a little boost. But I just don't think, like, I'm telling you, me right now, if it's like Washington plays Oregon and the winner goes to the Pac-12 title game, and so then they would have a shot at making the playoff, I still don't care. I don't care. They're going to get housed by Alabama if they win that first game that they play against nobody's state in a home game, which is not college football, to be playing home playoff games. And I feel like I'm the only person in the world, and Caroline too, who are sitting here saying this is not college football. This is a different sport. The idea of, if a playoff spot's on the line, more people will care. How many people in America care about the New York Islanders right now? Not enough. Well, okay, so let me counter that from an ESPN perspective, because I'm always super real with you about the fourth wall. Like, one of the biggest challenges that I've ever faced in my career was 2 years ago when I was traveling with Game Day, and I realized that I was spending so much time in my life prepping for college football content that never gets used on ESPN radio, because realistically, nationally, college football isn't as big of a conversation. Now, we would talk a little bit on Tuesdays about what the committee was going to do, and on Wednesday mornings what the committee did. but there's very little college football conversation throughout the course of the week because of the way the calendar runs and because people care more about the NFL nationally. So, Michael Luke Jr. and I would laugh at the time about, and still do, about how much work he and I put into the college football season that doesn't get utilized. To your point, maybe you don't care, but do you think realistically that a playoff matchup on a Friday where we're talking about all of this other stuff that's going on nationally across the board, when we're talking about everything else, you don't think that a possible playoff berth being on the line doesn't make college football a bigger part of the conversation nationally, which is all part of what everybody's trying to accomplish for their sport? Like, the more we're talking about it, the more storylines we can find on it, the more people gravitate to watch it. To me, that's a simple portion of this, like that gets the random person that doesn't usually care about, a BYU game. Maybe they care about that game if we're sitting there talking about the playoff ramifications that are on the line. So, I'll go back to the casual fan that I think it brings into matchups they wouldn't usually care about. I don't know that you're the audience for expansion. I think right now what college football believes is that the diehards will stay with the sport because the diehards usually do stay with the sport. So now it's about how do we bring everybody else in, and more teams in the playoffs has worked for every sport in doing that.
Has it? I mean, baseball, Jason Fitz is our guest. When baseball had two teams in each league go to the LCS in a best of 5 and then later a best of 7, and those two teams win, two teams that go to the World Series, their ratings were significantly higher in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s than when they expanded than they are today. And they've got more teams. They got that second wild card. They're going to add more teams. And you look at baseball ratings, it is not even close. Look at the NBA. The NBA, look at the ratings in the 90s. Look at the Magic and Larrys, the Michaels. Look at it now. It's not the same now.
I'll counter that and say you're looking at 80s and 90s versus where we are today when the landscape is so significantly different. I mean, that's a little like saying that a TV show is not a success because it doesn't pull the same ratings as Friends. And that's not real anymore. Like the ratings that were pulled by TV shows in the 80s and 90s, like I'm not sure anyone's ever going to hit what Cheers accomplished or what MASH accomplished on TV, but there was significantly less competition for it. When you look across the board at the numbers now, like the last year, baseball numbers in the playoffs did fairly well. And the year before, they did fairly well from my memory. But I will tell you that NBA numbers, while everybody talks about their TV numbers constantly, NBA digital numbers are through the roof because that's where young NBA fans watch. So, there is some element of, what are you looking for and what are you going to get? I mean, I think playoff expansion has worked simply for the conversation we have. I mean, you cover hockey all the time, right? And that's a sport where it feels like everybody makes the playoffs. But when you look at the ratings,
you don't cover hockey,
regular
Fitz.
Season,
See, you don't, though. That's the issue. It's not about, we're local markets. So if Vanderbilt or Tennessee or somebody like that is in the mix for this 12-team playoff, we will talk about it. But it's you guys. It's ESPN. You guys are, the idea that, hey, Washington is playing Oregon in a big game that has playoff ramifications, it's not going to get talked more about than the Steelers playing the Cowboys that week on your show. Like you say it might be more interesting, but it's not going to be bigger than the NFL.
You're forgetting where we have our money invested, though. Like from a national standpoint, like ESPN is already talking about hockey more than they have in years because we've now become TV partners with the NHL. Like, because I'm always real with this audience and with you. Like, I never thought I'd have to talk about MMA, but man, once ESPN got in the UFC business, we certainly talk about it, right? So I got to know what's going on for big fights because that's part of the job now. So when we become TV partners, we talk about anything, and we have so much money invested in college football. You bet your butt we're going to make all of that a huge conversation, especially now that we bought the SEC package. Like, ESPN is going to do nothing but talk about college football as much as possible. So, look no further than College Football Live is a show that I get to host in the falls that only exists because we frankly put money into college football. So, yeah, I totally disagree. I think ESPN will spend a ton more time talking about potential playoff matchups. It becomes a first take conversation where usually, Indiana taking on Wisconsin in a game that may not have a ton of meaning isn't going to be a first take conversation. But if the winner of that game is suddenly looking at the opportunity to somehow sneak into the playoffs, boy, we're talking about it then.
Boy, I wish I could bet you, but it's like 5 years until this happens. But I just so vehemently disagree with you. But I still love you, Jason Fitz.
Well, I love you too. But also remember this. I think we'll put the bet out. 5 years from now, you're still going to be watching college football, and that's why like you're not the target audience for it. I hear where you're coming from. I just think they're thinking college football is thinking more about a broad set of the audience than necessarily the passionate audience that exists in the South.
Fitzy, love you as always. Presented by Blood Assurance. Give blood, give local, save lives. We'll talk to you next week.
You're the best, my friend.
Yep. All right. I did want to talk about something that had to do with the Titans, but I want to react to Fitz because I vehemently disagree with him, and I see what he's saying. I get what he's saying, but I don't believe it. We'll get to that coming up next. I promise Jimmy Buffett tickets. Caller 5 right now, 615-737-1025. You'll see tickets to see Jimmy Buffett and the Coral Reefer Band at Ascend Amphitheater on Tuesday, July 6th. Good luck to you on that. Stillman and Company, it's ESPN 1025, The Game. Stillman and Company. So Fitz just came on the show, and he says an increased number in the college football playoff means more people around the country will care about it and wants to make a 5-year better, however it is with me, that ESPN will care more about it now that there are 12 teams. I vehemently disagree. There are more teams in hockey. There are more teams in basketball, and hockey gets very little coverage. Even baseball, they're going to expand the playoffs in baseball, this next collective bargaining agreement. You watch. You think First Take will debate? First round series, Blue Jays and Astros. Stephen A. Smith, who you got? And I certainly don't think it's going to happen with college football, who just happens to be playing their playoffs at the single most important time for the NFL. You've worked at ESPN. You now work here. Now, it's odd that I feel like I hear every ESPN employee saying the same things about how great this 12-team playoff is going to be. And by the way, they own it.
Well, yeah. Do you know what the 12-team college football playoff is going to be on?
And that being said, I trust Trevor. I trust Fitz. They come on the show every week. I don't think that there was like a mandate emailed
No, not at all. Those are two wonderful people, and there are so many more wonderful people who work at ESPN.
Do you buy that narrative? Because we were just told it on the local level this morning when I went on in Louisville, and Drew Diener said, well, think about how Louisville could make the playoff and how much more fun that would be. And Fitz kind of saying the same thing. Not one person, by the way, has argued that they think that any of those teams will ever be capable of beating Alabama. But, again, I don't buy this. I think, if anything, it will make more people click off because it's just like, who cares? It's like, think about this. Making the college football playoff is such an accomplishment right now that it's like a hat and a T-shirt and, oh, my God, we made the playoff. Oh, God, this is all our hard work paid off for. Nobody says that when they make the NCAA basketball tournament.
Well, it's because of the scarcity. You look at lobster, for example. Lobster is a glorified cockroach. But there is value placed upon it, so it's expensive, and it makes people think that you're rich if you eat lobster. There is no value to something that isn't scarce.
Sure, if we gave everybody a Lamborghini, if it was like, you know what, how much do you think it costs to make a Lamborghini? Like, the Lamborghini company to build a Lamborghini, how much do you think it costs?
If a Lamborghini, to buy costs $100,000, I think that a Lamborghini costs $20,000 to make.
Okay.
That's nice leather. That's a lot of parts.
So basically 5-to-1 return.
Yes.
Okay. What if Lamborghini said, it only costs us $20,000? And again, we're throwing these numbers out. I mean, a Lamborghini could cost you like $225,000, but I don't know. But let's say, again, 5-to-1. And it costs $20,000 for a Lamborghini to make it. What if they said, let's sell them for $35,000?
I'd get one.
But then the value of the Lamborghini would be gone.
Because everyone has one.
Right. That's the whole point of a Lamborghini, of a Maserati. When you see it, you're like, oh, my God, I guy's driving a Maserati. Man, nobody says that. Oh, wow, look at that Honda Accord. Nobody says that. And I just feel like if we start...
No offense to Honda Accord drivers out there.
No, but it's not a Lamborghini. If we start letting everybody into the playoff, and we're going to, then it's just kind of like, it's got that feeling to it.
Yeah.
And I don't think that Fitz was talking about, well, if Indiana is playing Wisconsin and that game has some sort of a college football playoff ramification to it, then that could mean that First Take will break it down. I promise you, Stephen A. Smith is not going to be talking about an Indiana-Wisconsin football game unless that game is the national championship. He's not talking about it.
And I think Fitz made one point that kind of struck a chord with me, and he said, well, how great would it be for the Music City Bowl to be a playoff bowl destination? What about the players who are used to playing in the Sugar Bowl? They don't want to play in the Music City Bowl. And what is stopping these players from saying, hey, look, I'm going to get drafted top 10 next year, and I'm going to make millions and millions of dollars, and I'm going to be able to tell my parents that they can retire. I think I'm going to sit this one out.
I'm out.
And risk an injury against Indiana in the Music City Bowl. No offense, it was a wonderful school, wonderful bowl. What's the point in them playing in it? And so then college football will become college basketball, where people play for 1 year and then say, yo, I'm out. I'm out of here. I'm not risking my future.
I think you're dead on. One of the biggest one of the biggest drawbacks of college basketball is the lack of giving a crap from 90% of the players who are in it.
Yeah.
And I'm
they don't
talking
care about the school.
The good, the good players, and it's like, oh, we lost in the second round. All right, signing with Clutch Sports today.
Yep.
Signing with
Getting
Rock
my Adidas
Nation.
deal today.
See ya. And I'm with you. And now football's going to have that regardless.
Mm-hmm.
That's the trend it's going. But, I mean.
It just feels like this expedites the process whenever you start to dilute a very elite product.
And I don't think there's any thought to this other than how can we get the most money from this. I think that at that level, at the top level, it's, all right, if we're going to do, I think the theory behind the real decision makers is if we're going to go to 8, we're already screwing with college football enough anyways. Let's just get as much money as we can. That's what I think their plan is. And I don't like it. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, though. Boy, the NFL is going to make it hard on you if you don't get your vaccine. That's next. Stillman and Company, ESPN 1025 The Game. And the Players Association, by the way, is working with the NFL on this. So the idea that the players can stand up for themselves, not so much. That's next. FanDuel Sportsbook app is my official sportsbook app. It is basketball, peak basketball, which means there are games every night for you to bet on my official sportsbook app, the FanDuel Sportsbook app. So many exciting matchups. And new and existing users can bet risk-free throughout the entire playoffs. Get up to $1,000 back if your first bet doesn't win. Plus, once you have an account, you can bet one same-game parlay risk-free every week. So, that's money line, point spread, first basket score, player point total, you name it, you bet it, boom. And if you don't win, you'll get $10 back. Basketball fans, now is the perfect time to give FanDuel a shot. Just sign up with the promo code JGM to bet the NBA playoffs risk-free exclusively on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. 21 and older and present in Tennessee. Risk-free first bet for first online real money wager only. Refund issued as non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 14 days. Same game parlay refund issued as non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 7 days. Max refund $10. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Same game parlay available for multiple sports in all states on mobile/web. Gambling problem? Call Tennessee Redline 1-800-889-9789. Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, ESPN 1025 The Game. I always feel like we have, when it comes to rules, we always have two different kinds of people, right? Mm-hmm. We have the first set of people that are like, I disagree with the rules, but the rules are the rules, here we go. It's kind of how I feel about taxes, right? Mm-hmm. Like there are certain taxes I don't like paying. There are certain taxes I don't agree with. There are certain tax increases I don't like. There are certain tax increases that I'm for. There are certain tax decreases I like. But guess what? The rules are the rules. A couple of months ago, I got an update on my home. Up 25% in taxes. I don't like it. The rules are the rules.
That's a lot.
So when the bill comes, you got to pay the tax bill. At the end of the day.
Is what it is.
I don't like it. I don't like it, but you got to do it. I'm that kind of guy. I'm very opinionated, but once the rules are the rules, then they're the rules, and fine, that's how you operate. Then there is the person who will go bananas and lose their mind arguing over the rules. And in some cases, it's worth arguing the rules. In other cases, it's not. But for the most part, once the rules are the rules, then those are the rules, and you got to operate with it. You don't like wearing a mask 5 months ago when you had to go into a convenience store? Those are the rules. And some people don't like it. But I'd much rather be the guy that doesn't like it, puts on a mask, goes inside, does what they're supposed to do, leaves, takes the masks off, and doesn't like it, than the guy who walks in there and says, these are my freedoms. And I'm not sure how I feel about that guy. It's your right to not get vaccinated. I've been vaccinated. If you feel like sharing whether or not you've been vaccinated,
I've been vaccinated.
Ian, if you feel like sharing whether or not you've been vaccinated,
I have been vaccinated, yes.
Okay, we've all been vaccinated here, and we all encourage you to get vaccinated. We also know that there's a lot of people out there that haven't gotten vaccinated. And instead of arguing with those people, I just kind of say, fine. Fine. That's how it's going to be. But the NFL and the NFL Players Association have made the rules for the COVID-19 protocols for the 2021 training camp and preseason. And these are the rules. So yesterday, Roger Saffold said he was on the fence about getting the vaccine. If you don't get it, here are the rules. If you get it, here are the rules. If you are fully vaccinated at training camp this year, which, by the way, you better get those shots if you're a player like right now, if you want to be considered fully vaccinated by the NFL in time for training camp. If you are fully vaccinated, no daily testing, masks are not required at the club facility or during team travel. No physical distancing required in club facilities with other vaccinated individuals. No quarantine required after a high-risk exposure to COVID, like Chris Paul right now. No travel restrictions. No capacity limits in weight rooms when fully vaccinated. You may eat in the cafeteria with other fully vaccinated individuals. No restrictions on social, media, marketing, sponsorship opportunities. You may use the sauna and the steam room. I'm talking about like the 1930s. May interact with vaccinated family and friends during team travel. So you can go see your friends that are in Denver who you haven't seen in 2 years when you go play the Broncos. If they've been vaccinated, you've been vaccinated. Sounds like normal life. If you're not vaccinated in the NFL, you have testing required every day. That means somebody's sticking that thing up your nose, which, by the way, hurts every day. Masks required at club facility and during travel. You must remain physically distant from others in the club facility. You must quarantine after a high-risk exposure to COVID. There are travel restrictions in effect. Now, I don't know what those travel restrictions are. I think there's more to this. But travel restrictions are in effect. You can only have 15 players in the weight room. Players must be physically distanced in meal rooms and may not eat with other teammates. Staff must grab and go. No meals in the cafeteria if you're a coach and you haven't been vaccinated. You cannot social media or market sponsorship activities at all. You may not use the sauna or steam room, again, to the old people. And you may not leave the team hotel to eat in restaurants, and you may not interact with anyone outside of the team travel party during your team travel. Life is much more difficult in the NFL if you're not vaccinated. Now, again, I've seen a bunch of political people say, well, in my state, you can't force people to get vaccinated, or you can't force a vaccine passport, or you can't. The NFL can do whatever they want. So before you bombard the text line with, well, Dr. Fauci said, and what really is the case, before you start doing that, these are the rules. I didn't write them. I didn't say I was for them. I didn't say I was against them. I'm just saying these are the rules. Now, we talked last week at length about the idea of it being a competitive advantage for your team to be vaccinated. And still there are low vaccination rates in the NFL. I hear those rules for training camp, and I know about how important camaraderie is in the NFL, and I know how much I hated wearing a mask. And guess what? I think right now the team that gets the most vaccinated, unless you just stink and don't have a quarterback, the team that gets the most vaccinated will have a significant advantage on the team that is the least vaccinated. And I do wonder, for a lot of people that are on the fence about the vaccine or they don't know, I do wonder if things like this are going to put them over the top. If all of a sudden they're going to say, well, I read this article on Facebook, but I really honestly want to be able to leave the hotel when I'm traveling. Or I really honestly want to sit in the cafeteria and eat lunch every day with my teammates. And then they say, you know what, fine, I'll get it. And I do wonder that. And again, I keep wondering, I'm reading Tom Pelissero here, that the mandatory use of face coverings has been eliminated for fully vaccinated coaches under the updated protocols. So, for example, Andy Reid, who had that crazy face shield and the
that
mask,
was
whatever.
so foggy.
Oh, yeah, it's gone. It's gone. But the NFL is making it a lot harder on you if you are not vaccinated. And I do wonder, I wonder a couple things. One, is this going to work? Is this going to get players that don't want to get vaccinated to get vaccinated? Two, are the Titans going to be the team that is successful in getting their players to get vaccinated? And three, are these rules going to be legit? Because if they are legit, then I think you are at a competitive disadvantage if you don't get your shot. And this is the NFL where guys will get shots put up their rear end of stuff that they don't know that'll make their arms blow up just to get a second contract. This is a little different. It's like I heard somebody say, I just want more research on the vaccine before I do it. And I'm thinking to myself, what research? You have a team doctor. I guarantee you the team doctor is telling you to get the vaccine. The NFL has a chief medical officer, a guy by the name of Alan Stills, who, by the way, lives here. He's a doctor. He's telling people to get the vaccine. The NFLPA has a medical director. He's a doctor. His name's Tom Mayer. He's telling people to get the vaccine. By the way, this is the league's union that has come to these conclusions with the NFL. There is no way of getting around this. I wonder what this means for the NFL. And I was talking to a very prominent media member a couple of months ago, and we were talking about vaccines. I got the vaccine. He got the vaccine. We were talking about the vaccine. And he said, I hope private businesses are what gets people over the top to get their shots. Now, let me say this, and this is not a political show, and I am not Bill O'Reilly, but I do believe, as much as I encourage everybody to get vaccinated, and that I myself am vaccinated, and my entire family is vaccinated, and I do very strongly believe in it, I do believe that as an American citizen, it's your right to do whatever you really want at the end of the day. That's part of what freedom is. But just because it's a right doesn't mean that it's your right to play in the NFL. And the NFL, I think, should be allowed to dictate, hey, these are the rules if you're not vaccinated. Deal with it. And I don't want to hear any crying from the team that doesn't get vaccinated and the coach who gets fired, because now at this point it's convincing your players. And I don't know the way to convince people, because I know the one thing is to not act like somebody's an idiot if they don't get the vaccine. You're never going to get somebody convinced doing it that way. I do wonder which coach is the one who gets through to the most players. Which team doctor is the one who gets through to the most players and gets the most shots. And all of a sudden, once they get all those shots, now they have a competitive advantage on a team they're playing. If I was an NFC South team and I saw Sam Darnold say, yeah, I'm not getting the shot. And I don't know exactly what Darnold said, but I know that he's like the most prominent player to say that he hasn't gotten it or doesn't plan to get it or whatever. Sam Darnold can't meet with his receivers. He can't eat with his receivers. These are brand new receivers. He's on a new team. He can't do any of that. Like, isn't that a humongous competitive disadvantage? And again, think about all the things you put your body through in order to be successful at football. And think about all the doctors that you listen to when it comes to breaking your arm, when it comes to anything else. And those same people are telling you to get this shot. I had somebody today who I know that is against getting the vaccine, and that's their right again, who then talked about all of the things that their vet has told them about their dog. And I thought, so we trust that doctor. And that's where we are right now. So again, you may not like these rules from the NFL, and I can just hear Clay Travis complaining about it right now. I can. You know, the pandering stuff about, how dare you? I can hear it. But guess what? Those are the rules. And guess what? There's no breaking them in the NFL because they're going to know who's vaccinated and who's not. So now it's a competitive disadvantage thing. Do you think the NFL is right to do this, or do you think they are wrong to do this?
I think the NFL has the right to do whatever they want.
I didn't say do they have the right. They have the right to do what they want, but are they right to do it?
I think so. When it comes to the safety of other people, and when it comes to let's say if they said it's your choice, which it is, if they gave that option to a lot of players and players chose not to do it, and then those players who did choose to get vaccinated, that would make players who did get vaccinated feel uncomfortable to be around their families if they're around people who are unvaccinated, who are around other unvaccinated people. I think that the NFL is doing the best that they can do to keep their players as safe as they can possibly be, to keep fans and coaches as safe as they can possibly be. So if they need to be tough on it, then that's what they have to do. But I think my one question from this that I think was very unclear was the travel restrictions. Are they saying if you're unvaccinated, you do not go on road games?
I think you got to go by yourself.
You go by yourself?
I think that may be part of it, but I don't know.
It just says travel restrictions in effect. So they might not even know. The NFL, the NFLPA may not even know yet. So if it is you don't go on road games, if it gets to that point, then what is it going to take for players to get vaccinated? Because I think at this point, it's selfish if you don't. If you are an NFL player and these are your restrictions, this is what happens if you do not choose to get vaccinated, then yes, I do think it's you're making a selfish decision. You're making a decision for yourself and not for your team.
Let's take your phones. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Again, the NFL saying, hey, if you are not vaccinated, you basically have to isolate with a mask on away from the team. If you do get vaccinated, you can live life like normal. How do we feel? 615-737-1025 is the phone number. 615-737-1025. Here on Stillman & Company, we're live from the wholesaling studio, powered by RumbleOn.com. And again, the question I have is this. Is the NFL right to do this? It is their right to do it. And you can't be the person that says, well, it was Colin Kaepernick's, the NFL has the right to do whatever because Colin Kaepernick took a knee, and then say the NFL doesn't have the right to tell people to get vaccinated. If the NFL has the right to tell you what to do, the NFL has the right to tell you what to do. And I firmly believe that the NFL had the right to tell Colin Kaepernick what to do, and I believe they have the right to tell people to get vaccinated. What do you make of it? 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Stillman & Company, we're live from the wholesaling studio, powered by RumbleOn.com. It's ESPN 1025 The Game.
I'm curious how much vaccination talk there is among the team, the guys in general, and maybe I don't know what your choice was, but maybe if you could just maybe talk about your thought process on the vaccination situation and what kind of went through your mind as you wanted to make up your mind one way or the other.
I can't speak on the entire NFL, but I know for this team, we've been trying to be as informative as possible. Nobody has been forced. Everybody has been given the option. It's all about safety for yourself, safety for your family, and they've given us choices on which vaccination we can choose. That's all that you can look for out of your club. For me personally, I'm kind of on the fence, constantly doing research, and sometimes there's so much information out there, it's hard to choose. But for me, I'm kind of leaning towards doing the vaccination just so I could be a lot freer with my teammates, be able to visit family, and not have to deal with some of those restrictions that come along with not being vaccinated.
So that was Roger Saffold yesterday, and I'm kind of reading up now on some of the new NFL procedures, and there is discipline for vaccinated and non-vaccinated players. Discipline schedule for COVID-19 protocol violations for any player who is not fully vaccinated. Gathering outside of the club facility or team travel in groups of more than 3 is a $14,000 fine, $14,650. Engaging in in-person meetings, practices, training sessions outside of club facilities with other players, $14,650. Gathering in any number of reasons with other players of the club's tiered staff when the club is shut down due to a COVID outbreak is $50,000. Attending an indoor nightclub unless the player is wearing PPE and there are no more than 10 people in the club. I don't think that exists. But in case it does, $14,650. Attending an indoor bar other than to pick up food unless the player is wearing PPE and there are no more than 10 people in the bar, $14,650. For clarity, a bar does not include an establishment that offers food service which the player attends primarily for food service, even if the establishment includes a full-service bar. I read that however you want to get it.
Getting a lot of Magic City Lou Will flashbacks from that one.
Basically everything is $14,000. Refusing to submit to required virus testing under the screening testing protocol is $50,000. Refusal to wear a mask or your tracking device or maintain distancing during travel, $14,650. And now the media, basically, if you want to cover football, you have to get the vaccine. Mm-hmm. So, again, the question I think here is the NFL right to do that? I hear Saffold saying, hey, we're trying to get as much research as possible. I don't really know, what kind of research is he doing other than talking to the team doctors? Now, you can wait for other people to get it. Mm-hmm. I got it, and if I grow an arm out of my rear end, which I don't think is going to happen, but if I do, then all of you were right and I was wrong, and you will then know. But I'm guessing that's not going to happen. But that's neither here nor there. So, again, the question is not, do you agree with vaccines? I know that most people either do or don't. And then sometimes their feelings about anything vaccine-related is based upon whether or not they agree with it. My question is the NFL right to do this? And I will, again, use Colin Kaepernick as the other example. Because when Colin Kaepernick took a knee for the national anthem and people didn't want him on their team because it was a distraction in the locker room, which we can go back and say whatever we want to say about how we felt then or what we didn't feel then. But the truth is the league didn't want him because teams in the league didn't want him because every time anything happened, it would be all about Colin Kaepernick. And they didn't want that. And I understand how the NFL operates. We want as few distractions as possible, all about the team. Fine, I get it. Maybe it wasn't the most right thing they could do. Maybe it was the most right thing. I don't know. But again, I felt like the NFL had a right to say, hey, you got to stand for the national anthem. Now, I just don't think that playing football is a right. And I think that when people talk about freedom in the National Football League, they don't understand what freedom actually means. Because in other countries, if you say something like you don't like the political leader, you can get killed or you can get jailed. And America's not like that. So nobody is saying Colin Kaepernick should go to jail. Or that if you don't get your vaccine, you should go to jail. Nobody is saying that. But Again, if you thought the NFL had the right to tell Kaepernick what to do, then they should, in theory, have the right to tell these other players what to do. And if you didn't think that, then you shouldn't think it now. But I'm guessing it's not the same. Let's go to your phones. 615-737-1025. Phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Ray is going to kick us off this hour. Thank you for calling. Go ahead, Ray.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
I have to disagree with you guys. How can a company, which the NFL is,
a private company,
mandate that a employee take a non-FDA approved vaccine? This is an experimental vaccine, emergency use only.
And this,
I think the employee has the right to not take that until it's FDA approved.
So I will answer your question with this. Thank you for your call, Ray. That was collectively bargained by the league and the NFL Players Association. The NFL can't tell the players to do anything if it is not collectively bargained. This was not the NFL sent this out and said, hey, here are the rules. This was collaborated on with the NFL and the NFL Players Association. They came to this together. That's how the NFL can do it. Now, again, the vaccine has not been fully authorized by the FDA. Guess what? Neither are the protein shakes that the players drink after they work out. And yet they all drink them, don't they? You know, it's funny. I didn't know about this until Taylor Lewan got his positive test for PEDs. You know that like a protein supplement you have, there's no approval of it one way or another. That's why they got to get tested. Every time that you get a supplement, the players got to go take them to get tested to make sure that their supplements are okay, because the company in theory could lie. Supplement companies can lie about what they put in their stuff. The turkey company that sells you that sliced deli turkey, that is FDA approved. Those Chips Ahoy that you like, FDA approved. If it's food, it's FDA approved. If it's a supplement, it's not. That's why, in fact, I got a protein shake right here, and I believe that it says somewhere on here about how stuff hasn't been evaluated by the FDA. And I don't see it. But, again, like, that is very tricky. Like, supplements and food are different. Now, again, this is a shot. This is medical. This is whatever, but it was given emergency authorization from the FDA. Again, I'm not the biggest, like, I'm not a vaccine expert. I'm not trying to be a vaccine expert. I'm just saying, like, this is what the NFL is doing, and is it wrong for them to do it, or is it right? And again, it goes back to not how you feel about it, but how do you feel about the NFL's control on what people can do that play in their league? Let's go to Jerry, who's up next here on the program. Thank you for calling the show. Go ahead, Jerry.
Hey, guys. So I spent a lot of time in Memphis recently in the past few years, and part of the pandemic I was in Memphis, and I think I heard a comment earlier that it was selfish to your teammates, and I want to make sure that we at least recognize that the African-American community, of which the NFL is made up mostly of, is real hesitant to take vaccinations, generally speaking anyway, due to their history. And I didn't realize that as a Caucasian male working in Memphis, and I was enlightened on that during the pandemic. So I took the vaccine. It wasn't anything except I just felt like it was the right thing to do. But I can see why some community members from that race might be more hesitant than others. That's all I have.
Jerry, I appreciate your call, and this has been something that has been discussed a lot. Now, again, I'm not like a watching the news every day kind of guy where they talk about this stuff, but this stuff has been discussed. And I do wonder, going back to the Roger Saffold thing, I do wonder how the Players Association approached this. Because you represent every player in the league. But did they take a vote to say, okay, what are we willing to allow the NFL to tell us that we can do, and what are we holding out for? Or is the Players Association, do they want people to get vaccinated so badly that they just said, yeah, okay, let's agree to this, so that it almost forces the players into the corner of getting vaccinated? And I don't know. And I have heard the same concern that Jerry brought up. Now, I don't work in Memphis, and I don't work, like in healthcare or anything like that. But I will say that I do feel like there are a lot of places around the country outside of the NFL where people are being mandated to get this vaccine. And again, I would just say that, we always talk about people being able to do what they want to do and companies being able to do what they want to do. And if you allow companies to be able to do what they want to do, and the NFL is a company, and the company does what they want to do, and what they want to do is get people vaccinated, and they put in these kind of restrictions, that is, in theory, what a lot of people say about capitalism, right? Now, I mean, there are other things where you can't do, like you can't, not hire, you can't go out of your way to not hire minorities or women or based upon religion or things like that. So I think there's there's a lot of elements to this, and I do wonder what the reaction around the country is going to be to the NFL basically saying, vaccinated players over here, non-vaccinated players over there.
Yeah, I'm not sure, and I had not heard that, so thank you to the caller for bringing that to my attention. I was not aware of that. I think it also should be known, too. I think a lot of I see as a sentiment in the text line where people are saying, you can't be forced to do anything. The NFL isn't saying you're not going to get paid if you do not get the COVID-19 shot. It is not saying, they're not saying, oh, you cannot play football anymore. That's kind of what it feels like. It feels forceful because it's saying, look at all of these hoops that you have to jump through if you don't get it. If you feel so vehemently that you do not want to get the vaccination, then you do not have to get the vaccination. It comes with consequences, as does working for the NFL. You give up some of your personal liberties and freedoms in order to play for the NFL, as does any sort of employee when you sign a contract, as does anyone who works for a public entity or goes to a public school. You give up certain personal liberties in order to do and attend and work for these places. So nobody is forcing anyone to do anything. The framework is rewarding you if you do get vaccinated, but it is not forcing anyone to do anything. If Sam Darnold wants to sit in his own designated area in the team's cafeteria and he wants to get tested every day, that's his choice. He can do that if he'd like.
So I guess my thing is, too, on top of it, as far as the NFL is concerned, I look at this and I would say they got a lot of different people to worry about here, including some of these old coaches and everything else. And so the idea of, hey, you need to wear a mask if you're not going to get vaccinated is not the same as saying you can't play on the team.
Mm-hmm.
I also think for these like non-undrafted free agents and things like that, get the shot because you're not going to make the team if you're not. And no one will ever say that, but I'm just telling you the truth. Like if you're a kicker and you're bouncing around on the kicker carousel and they've got to COVID test you and then wait for you to get into they're not going to sign you. Get the shot if you're one of those guys that's kind of on the edge there. All right, I see all your calls and texts into the text line. We cannot get to all of them because we've got to get to Caroline's. Another bad day for me. We will do that next. Stillman and Company, it's ESPN 1025 The Game. I do believe I need to tell the fine folks out there something very important. So, meanwhile, that's exactly what I am going to do. NASCAR. The NASCAR weekend is back. Be sure to get your tickets for Saturday and Sunday as tickets are going fast. Kids 12 and under get in free Friday and Saturday. Plus, experience the post-race fireworks Friday night. RV camping for NASCAR is still available. For more info, visit NashvilleSuperspeedway.com. Be sure to tune into the Ally 400 NASCAR Cup Series race broadcasted this Sunday on ESPN 1025 The Game. Coverage 1:30 in the race begins at 2:30. Stillman & Company is delivered by TriStar Moving. It's ESPN 1025 The Game. Stillman and Company, delivered by TriStar Moving. Bad week for me on the gambling so far. I may be already down 0-2 at this point.
Woohoo!
Caroline Fenton 4-0 yesterday.
Good day for me.
You got the Reds in extra innings. You got the Yankees with a double in the bottom of the 8th. That was the difference. Caroline 7-1 in the week. Yours truly.
That's
3-5.
all it takes.
By the way, thanks to Giannis Antetokounmpo as well for his
choke and a half,
whatever you want to call that. I mean, KD was great last night, but Giannis, oh my goodness, it's time now for Caroline's.
Get in on the action. Put the money on the mahogany. What's on tap on the sports books? It's time to break it all down with Caroline's. Here on Stillman and Company.
On ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
First, we got Vegas and the Montreal
Canadiens.
Thank you. I'm going to take Vegas minus 1.5 plus 105. The Vegas moneyline odds aren't great, but there is nothing that will lead me to believe that Vegas cannot win this game by at least 2. So Carey Price had like a 9.345-ish something, a wonderful save percentage going into this series in the playoffs. His save percentage game 1 was 8.67.
Sure.
That's how good Vegas is. Marc-Andre Fleury posted a 9.66 game percentage in game 1. Vegas won 4-1, going 0-4 on the power play. They're just a really good team. During the postseason, the Knights have the most points by defensemen, 37 points by defensemen in 14 games. Montreal has 13 points from defensemen in 12 games. Vegas is just full of guys who can score, and they have a netminder that just will not let anything in. Give me Vegas minus 1.5.
I'll take Vegas on the money line. I don't feel so comfortable at 1.5. I think you'll get a good effort from Montreal tonight, and it could be an overtime type game, or it could be a you're taking a minus 1.5 or plus 1.5?
Minus 1.5.
Okay, minus 1.5.
Plus 105.
Plus
Odds
105.
were just so much better.
So, I mean, I'll take Vegas on the money line. I think they get it done, but I think it's going to be a close game. What's next?
We also have Clippers Jazz. Give me the Jazz minus 3, minus 110. Kawhi is out tonight with a right knee injury. I just don't think that PG can do it alone. The game will be back in Utah, and Donovan Mitchell is back tonight. He was not so hot in Game 4, but I think he's going to go into this game with a lot more confidence, a little bit more rest, and knowing that Kawhi won't be there, I think that he is just going to absolutely tear it up on the court tonight.
What's the series advantage right now?
It's 2-2.
2-2 going to Game 5. No Kawhi. I hate Paul George. Clippers plus 3.
All right.
Going Clips plus 3 today.
That's pretty tight.
I'm Sally. What's called the Sally rule, where you just go the opposite of what you think. I'm going with the Sally rule here. I think the Jazz are going to win, but I've been wrong on all these NBA bets lately. So Sally rule, Clippers plus 3. What's next?
All right, spicy. We've also got Cubs, Mets. Give me Mets minus 1.5. For one reason and one reason only, and that is Jacob deGrom. Jacob deGrom will be on the mound tonight for the Mets. He's 6-2 with a 0.56 ERA in 10 starts, and he is by far the front runner for the Cy Young Award. The Cubs, however, have Robert Stock out on the mound. It is his season debut. He has not made an MLB start in his 3 years in the league. He hasn't made a start in San Diego from 2019, in Boston 2020, has not yet started an MLB game. So, give me the Mets, minus 1.5, minus 128. They're like minus 320 on the money line. It's not even worth your time.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Mets minus 1.5 too. And I mean, the Cubs don't even have Chris Bryant in the lineup. I mean, they are. Here you go. They've got. After their original, these are guys that are major league players. Jock Peterson, Anthony Rizzo, Javier Baez, Ian Happ. After that, I don't see a single legitimate MLB player. Wisdom, Rafael Ortega, Eric Sogard. Now, Sogard has played in the league for a while, but he's bounced around everywhere because he's a bench guy. He's not any good. Meanwhile, the Mets are rolling out a lineup with Jonathan Villar, Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, Kevin Pillar. And then, of course, your point about Jacob deGrom. I'm going to take the Mets minus 1.5 here. I just think that one's too simple. So I watched the Braves melt down yesterday against Boston, and I don't think the Braves are very good. But I'm going to take the Braves on the money line. I think their season.
Homer alert.
Well, they got Ian Anderson pitching today. I think their season's over if they lose today. I mean, and I know that people say, "Oh, there's Jared again going off the top rope. Jared going crazy," but I mean, they stink. And I've said that the line of demarcation for a baseball team, you can have a bad April. And I'm not going to throw any panic buttons or fire up the alarms or anything like that. I'm not going to go nuts. But once you get to Memorial Day, if you're not doing well, you better turn it around quickly. And they haven't done that. And their pitching is a mess. And Ian Anderson is the only guy, along with Max Fried sometimes, but he's the most consistent guy they've got. They need him to be their stopper today. If he's not, I don't think they can recover from this. I really don't. I think they're a mess right now. I think they need to fire the pitching coach. If I owned the team and they lost tonight, the pitching coach is gone tomorrow. Now, he probably already be gone by now.
Right.
But he's gone. So I'm going to take Atlanta on the money line because they just never let themselves get too crappy.
I'm going to take the Red Sox on the money line just because I want to be different, and I'm going to rock with the winner from yesterday.
Boy, the Braves really screwed that. I mean, I would have fired the pitching coach yesterday. True story. So I want to get rid of this pitching coach because, like, everybody's worse with him, and then they go other places and they're better.
Love that.
Once I see that, like, I feel like I know.
Right.
But yesterday, tied 7-7 in the 8th. Pitching coach goes to the mound. Next pitch, 3-run homer, Red Sox. That's all you see. Like, I mean, again, I don't know what the pitching coach said.
It's just so rough.
But you're already doing a terrible job. You go out there, and the guy gives up a home run on the next pitch when they should have walked that guy anyways. I don't need to see more.
It's just such a bad look.
I don't need to see more. By the way, we get some NBA thoughts I want to get to. We'll do that coming up next. Big games tonight. Big games, including the Hawks and the 76ers. I was surprised that one did not make your list. We'll get to that coming up next. Stillman and Company, we are delivered by TriStar Moving. By the way, Nashville SC, we are your home for Nashville SC on ESPN 94.9. And you should be listening this weekend because ESPN 102.5 The Game, or you should just be listening in general. Listen in Friday as Nashville SC takes on the New York Red Bull. Match begins at 7 o'clock. And listen to 102.5 The Game on Mondays because we partnered with T-Mobile to give you a chance to experience a Nashville SC game this season. Tune in every Monday to Darren, Donick, and Chase for the keyword to text in to win. Good luck from 102.5 The Game, T-Mobile, and Nashville SC. Stillman and Company, we are delivered by TriStar Moving. It's ESPN 102.5 The Game. Stillman and Company, delivered by TriStar Moving. Here on the program, we got NBA and hockey tonight. Now, I have been somebody who has complained about the NBA for years because I don't like the super teams. So all these players, they all get together, they decide they're going to play together, and then next thing you know, we just won the championship, yay us. And I don't like that. And maybe it's like old man of me, and maybe it's, I don't know. I don't like it. The second part is, even though the Nets are the closest thing to a super team, they're not really a super team, so we don't have any super teams this year. So like LeBron, like creating his own team to win a title, they're gone. There's no parity in the NBA. This year, there's parity. Like, nobody thought the Phoenix Suns would be good. Nobody thought, come on.
Nobody thought the Lakers would be out.
So, we have Atlanta, Philadelphia, and I turned the game off the other night, like an hour before it was over, because I thought Philadelphia was just going to mop the floor with Atlanta. Atlanta came all the way back and won. So, I am bringing back my old rule of watching the NBA, which is that I believe you don't need to watch until 9 o'clock tonight. The game tips at 6:30. I don't think you need to watch until 9 o'clock tonight. And if it's not a game, so if it's like 97-68, then you already know. But the chances are, just like last night in the Bucks game, where the Bucks had a huge lead in the first half and looked like they had all the momentum in the series and were going to mop the floor with the Nets, only to watch Kevin Durant go nuts. I think if it's a game, then you've already started watching. There's 12 minutes to go. There's 11 minutes to go. You're in the fourth quarter, but it's a game. You know it's going to be a game at the end. Now you got a game. Now the Clippers-Jazz game, that one comes on kind of late. So you're probably thinking about, midnight for the time to tune in to watch that game, to have, a legitimate chance of watching the game and it being down to the wire. I don't know how many people are staying up for midnight tonight to watch basketball. But just saying, I feel like that's the way to watch it. If you're going to watch it, and I'm going to watch tonight, I'm rooting for the Hawks. Game 5 against Philadelphia. I think Doc Rivers is a huge choker. I think Embiid, like Giannis, is a fake superstar. I don't know if this Trae Young for Atlanta is or isn't. I don't think he is. I don't think Atlanta's a great team.
You don't think he is?
Right now?
Yeah.
I don't think he's Kevin Durant.
He's not Kevin Durant, but I think the level of success for Kevin Durant and Trae Young is very different.
There's one player in the league who has won a championship in the last 15 years. I mean, you'd have to go back. But without being like a just transcendent Hall of Fame superstar, there's one guy that you could argue. To me, it's Kawhi. And Kawhi's probably going to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I just don't think that Kawhi is like the transcendent. Like I think Kawhi sits at the LeBron table, but he's not really there. Like, he doesn't belong there. Like, Durant belongs there. And I think you go back, like, Tim Duncan belonged there. Like the all-time.
Why don't you think Kawhi belongs there?
Because I don't think he's an all-time great. Like, I don't think Michael, Kobe, Shaq, LeBron, Tim Duncan, Kawhi. I don't think Kawhi belongs in that.
But you look at the Raptors. They won the NBA Finals. Nick Nurse won Coach of the Year. Kawhi leaves, and what are the Raptors?
Kevin Durant stays healthy in that series, or Klay Thompson stays healthy in that series. I don't think the Raptors won that series. I think that, not to say like that they got lucky, but I do think this feeds into it because Steph, he's there.
Yes.
Like all-time greats, because that's what you have to be in the NBA to win the title. Mm-hmm. You have to be an all-time great. Duncan and the Spurs, all-time great. Steph, all-time great. Kobe, all-time great. Shaq, all-time great. Michael, Larry, Magic, all-time greats. And I think Kawhi Leonard's a good player. I think he's an all-star. I think he's one of those guys that's going to be like, I think he's going to get into the Hall of Fame, but I don't think that we'll ever look at him like we look at all these other guys. Like Durant, that guy's a freaking star. And I just don't feel that way about Kawhi. Kawhi had one good run in a year where Klay Thompson got hurt, Kevin Durant got hurt in the NBA Finals.
But he's still on a run. I think my perspective of it is if you can be the superstar on a team, then I think you're an all-time great. Steph is that. LeBron is that.
Damian Lillard, and I love Damian Lillard, but he's not an all-time great.
Because he plays for the Blazers?
He's not an all-time great.
I think if he played for the Lakers, you'd be singing a different tune.
During the Michael Jordan 90s. Maybe it's a little bit before your time. The 2000s. So the 2000 decade, the 2000s. Is Tracy McGrady an all-time great? He was a superstar on a team, but he's not an all-time great.
A superstar on a championship-winning team or a finals team. Kawhi was that. Yeah, you have Fred VanVleet, and yeah, you have Kyle Lowry, but Kawhi led that team.
Do you consider Rip Hamilton an all-time great?
I don't even think I know who that is.
Okay. Like, that's my point. Like that Pistons team. I saw Joe Retro, Joe, the Detroit, Michigan. I saw Joe talking about when Ben Wallace got in the Hall of Fame. He's like, Ben Wallace deserves the Hall of Fame. No, he does not.
The Pistons.
But they won the title. So by your logic, put him in.
But was Dennis Rodman on that Pistons team?
No. Dennis Rodman was retired at that point.
Well, I don't know. I don't know who he is.
And Dennis Rodman that was like the 80s.
Yeah.
That's going to do it for us. We're out of here. Slapshot Radio next. Hockey tonight. Coverage begins at 7:30 right here at ESPN.